Chapter 1000. Damn it. The spirit fruit was taken by Duan Lingtian first. I don't think he has the time to consume it yet, right? Zuiyu's expression was grave, and his body was trembling in anger. Whoosh. Compared to him, Su Qing was much more straightforward. He immediately flew out like a sword and charged toward Duan Lingtian. At the same time he shouted coldly, "Duan Lingtian, hand over the spirit fruit." At this moment, whether it was Zuiyu or Su Qing, they were not surprised by the flame that rose from Duan Lingtian's body. It was also the fire concept. In fact, Duan Lingtian did not use the fire concept when he attacked them earlier. Their attention was completely focused on the spirit fruit that Duan Lingtian had plucked from the green vine. In their opinion, since the spirit fruit was the reward for the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace, it must not be an ordinary spirit fruit. When Zuiyu saw Su Qing had arrived at Duan Lingtian's side and was about to kill Duan Lingtian and take the spirit fruit away with him. This Su Qing? Damn it. Horror dawned on Zuiyu's face. The origin energy on his body surged, and the wind concept followed him like a shadow. With just a thought he was ready to chase after Su Qing. However, the moment he took a step forward, he suddenly froze on the spot. It was as though something unexpected had happened. Chow. How's this possible? Zuiyu, who had stopped moving, shuddered for no reason. His eyes stared into the distance, filled with endless fear. It was fear that came from the bottom of his heart. At this moment, it was as though he had seen something that he could not believe. In the distance, Duan Lingtian had a calm expression on his face as he faced the sword that contained the strength of over 1,620 ancient horned dragons and Su Qing, who wanted to kill him as soon as he made his move. However, the depth of his eyes was filled with extreme coldness. You're seeking death. Unknowingly, a sneer appeared on the corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth. Even though his body was still heavily injured, he was still able to fight back. However, he knew that even if his current injuries were even more serious, it would still be effortless for him to kill Su Qing. Facing Su Qing's sword, Duan Lingtian's eyes turned completely cold. 9 dragons' radiant flash. In the next moment, Duan Lingtian raised his hand, and the quasi-royal grade spirit sword that appeared out of thin air in his hand suddenly flashed out. His target was Su Qing, who was charging at him menacingly. Whoosh, whoosh. Almost at the same time that Duan Lingtian drew his sword, 3 earth-yellow divine dragons surrounded by red flames, green gales, purple lightning, and fierce sword intent appeared out of thin air and pounced towards Su Qing. At the same time that the 3 divine dragons pounced, the green astral wind pierced into the red flames, causing the flames to suddenly soar. The fire was fueled by the wind. At the same time, the speed of the 3 divine dragons increased. Their 3 pairs of eyes flashed and 6 flashes of extreme light shot out, producing a series of short-lived piercing howls. In front of Su Qing's eyes, the 3 rays of light that shot out from the yellow dragon's eyes disappeared the moment they appeared. T. Su Qing's expression changed drastically at once. Unfortunately, this was destined to be the last expression he would show in his life. At the moment when Su Qing's expression changed, a hideous bloody hole appeared in each of his 6 vital points, including the space between his brows, throat, and chest. 6 blood arrows shot out and landed on the ground. Blood splattered as though they had transformed into dazzling red roses. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. After the 6 rays of extreme light pierced through 6 vital points on Su Qing's body and killed him, they continued to fly out rapidly and crashed into the wall on the side of the 4th floor of Qingfeng Palace. One must admit that the wall on the 4th floor of Qingfeng Palace was really sturdy. Even if Duan Lingtian executed the 9 dragons' radiant flash with his current strength after breaking through and swiftly shot out 6 extreme flashes, he was unable to leave even the slightest trace of a mark on it. Boom. Finally, Su Qing's body fell into a pool of blood. He no longer made a sound. The strongest powerhouse among the younger generation in North Nether Sect was dead. How's this possible? No. Impossible. This is impossible. The scene stunned Zuiyu, who was about to fight with Su Qing for the spirit fruit in Duan Lingtian's hand. When Zuiyu took a step forward, he happened to witness the scene in front of him. He was so shocked that his legs felt as though they were filled with lead. He could no longer move. What a powerful energy. The eyes of the injured Duan Lingtian lit up immediately after he killed Su Qing. Whoosh. At the same time, the heaven and earth energy above Duan Lingtian's head stirred and gathered into the heaven and earth phenomenon. A total of more than 2,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared. This was because Duan Lingtian was injured. Otherwise, the number of ancient horned dragon silhouettes that appeared in the heaven and earth phenomenon would definitely be more than this. However, even if it was just a small number, it still made Zuiyu, who was standing in the distance, in a daze. Horror filled his eyes. Run, 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 run. At this moment, this was the only thought left in Zuiyu's mind. Whoosh. Without any hesitation, Zuiyu moved like a bolt of lightning and dashed toward the corridor furthest away from Duan Lingtian. He wanted to escape from there. That corridor was also where the bumpy road test that he had gone through when he came here was located. Trying to escape? Duan Lingtian noticed Zuiyu's movement immediately. At this moment, a smirk crept up the corner of his mouth. Zuiyu had been coveting the profundity fragment in his hand since the first time they met. If Zuiyu was not worried about Su Qing and Lei Zhong in the beginning, he might have already attacked him when they first met. In addition to the fact that Zuiyu wanted to kill him earlier, it was even more impossible for him to let Zuiyu go. As Duan Lingtian's eyes turned cold, the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand shook as he planned to perform the 9 Dragons' Radiant Flash again. In his opinion, with his current ability, if he performed the 9 Dragons' Radiant Flash, he would be able to kill Zuiyu with the 6 ultimate flashes before he could escape. However, just as he was about to make his move, an unexpected accident happened. Boom, boom, boom. Duan Lingtian shook the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand. Just as he was about to make his move, a wave of turbulence came from his internal organs. Horror dawned on his face before it turned pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Soon after, an intense pain spread throughout his body, causing him to feel as if he had lost all his strength. Clang. In the end, Duan Lingtian could only use the quasi-royal grade spirit sword to support his shaky body on the ground. What's going on? When Duan Lingtian saw Zuiyu's silhouette disappearing into the corridor in the distance, he no longer had the strength to chase after him, even though he was unwilling to do so. At this moment, the inside of his body was in a complete mess. When Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and regained his senses, he finally realized what had happened after he used inner vision for a while. It's because of this. After knowing the reason, Duan Lingtian could not help but smile wryly with a helpless expression on his face. As it turned out, the reason why his internal organs were in turmoil and the sharp pain that spread throughout his body caused him to lose all his strength was because of this. It was caused by the origin energy that had merged with the medicinal efficacy of the rebirth pill and the redbud fruit. To be more precise, it was because of the origin energy that had broken through again. Initially, when his cultivation base had broken through to the 4th level void transformation, he had allowed his origin energy to form an autonomous circulatory cycle and circulate it according to the roaming dragon form mental cultivation method of the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique. This way it would not affect him in any way. However, he never imagined that the yuan energy that was suddenly extracted from him when he killed Su Qing would cause the overbearing medicinal strength of the rebirth pill to display its might. Together with the medicinal strength of the redbud fruit, it would lead his yuan energy to accelerate to the limit. In just a short while, he had broken through the bottleneck to the 5th level void transformation, helping him to break through to the 5th level void transformation in one fell swoop. After his cultivation base had broken through to the 5th level void transformation, his origin energy had transformed as expected. After the breakthrough, his origin energy was guided by the medicinal efficacy of the rebirth pill and the redbud fruit. The speed was much faster than before. This also broke the circulatory cycle that Duan Lingtian had allowed his origin energy to circulate on its own. The origin energy went astray and injured his meridians, causing his body to be in a mess. As a result, Duan Lingtian was severely injured again. The injuries that originated from his body caused Duan Lingtian to lose all his strength. He could only watch as Zuiyu left. Now, I can only hope that Zuiyu can't find a way to leave. Otherwise, Duan Lingtian took a deep breath. He did not dare to think about what would happen next. When he felt the origin energy in his body still rampaging and causing him to feel intense pain, Duan Lingtian regained his senses and began to soothe the restless origin energy. 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique Roaming Dragon Form. Under Duan Lingtian's soothing, the origin energy that was guided by the medicinal efficacy of the rebirth pill and the redbud fruit finally returned to normal and began to circulate normally. At this moment, Duan Lingtian consumed another life recovery pill to heal his injuries. The injuries on his internal organs healed rapidly. After about 15 minutes, Duan Lingtian once again allowed the origin energy in his body to circulate on its own. He then flew out and headed in the direction that Zuiyu had left. Soon after, Duan Lingtian entered the bumpy road. As he passed through the bumpy road in reverse, he was warmly welcomed by the nature energy. However, since his strength had increased greatly, the bumpy road was like walking on flat ground to him. He did not feel any pressure at all. Where's Zuiyu? After passing through the bumpy road, Duan Lingtian did not see Zuiyu. In the end, he sensed the aura of an inscription formation in a corner. This inscription formation, through the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu, Duan Lingtian easily knew the function of the inscription formation in the corner. It was a one-way inscription formation. Usually, it would only appear at the entrance and exit of certain special places. One could only exit but not enter, and one could only enter but not exit. There's a path here as well? Duan Lingtian took a step forward and activated the inscription formation. It transformed into a faint light shield that covered the large floor in the corner. Rumble. Rumble. Chapter 1001. Zuiyu must have left from here. If I chase after him, it'll be difficult for me to come back. Duan Lingtian looked at the entrance of the stone staircase that was covered by a faint light shield. His expression was grave. The light shield in front of him was formed by a special inscription formation. No matter who it was, as long as they passed through it, their aura would be remembered by it and they would not be able to pass through it again. Since this inscription formation was created by a powerhouse like Emperor Wu, only a powerhouse like Emperor Wu could destroy it by force. Otherwise they would have to obey its rules. If Duan Lingtian passed through the light shield formed by the inscription formation and entered the entrance of the stone staircase, he would not be able to catch up with Zuiyu. He might not even be able to catch up with Zuiyu. Even if he managed to catch up, he might not be able to return to the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace, let alone go to the 5th level to look for Martial Emperor Qingfeng's body and obtain the 3 profundity fragments in Martial Emperor Qingfeng's body. According to Duan Lingtian's deduction, Qingfeng Emperor Wu's body should be on the 5th floor of Qingfeng Palace. I might not be able to come back if I chase after him. I might not be able to catch up with Zuiyu and kill him. If I don't chase after him, Zuiyu will definitely be able to leave Emperor Wu's secret treasure alive. Duan Lingtian's expression turned grave as he muttered to himself. Once Zuiyu leaves Emperor Wu's secret treasure, the 3 major second-rate forces, Anika sect, Izumo sect, and North Nether sect will definitely know that I killed Su Qing, Lei Zhong and Lei Jun. Su Qing is the strongest person among the younger generation in North Nether sect. He's also the direct disciple of the sect leader of North Nether sect. If the North Nether sect finds out that I killed him, they'll definitely not let me go. As for Lei Zhong and Lei Jun, they're the 2 most outstanding young disciples in Izumo sect. Lei Zhong is the direct disciple of a martial monarch powerhouse in Izumo sect while Lei Jun is the direct disciple of the sect leader of North Nether sect. It's inevitable that Izumo sect and I are like fire and water. Perhaps I didn't directly offend the Anika sect, but once the people from the Anika sect find out that my only son is on the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace and might be able to ascend to the 5th level to obtain the 3 profundity fragments in Emperor Wu's body, they won't let me go either. Thinking of this, Duan Lingtian could not help but smile bitterly. There was no doubt that the 3 second-rate forces in the northern desert would target him because of Zuiyu's departure. At that time, not only would he have to face a group of powerhouses at the peak of the void from the 3 great second-rate forces, but he would also have to face 3 martial monarch powerhouses from the 3 great second-rate forces. After all, each of the 3 great second-rate forces had at least 1 martial monarch powerhouse. For a moment, Duan Lingtian felt great pressure. Should we give chase and take a gamble? Perhaps I can catch up to Zuiyu. However, if I do that, I might not be able to catch up to him. If that's the case, not only will I have to give up the 3 profundity fragments in Emperor Wu's body, but the 3 great second-rate forces will also target me. The thoughts in Duan Lingtian's mind changed rapidly. In the end, he clenched his teeth and made up his mind. Forget it. Provoking 3 second-rate forces or provoking 1 second-rate force doesn't make much of a difference to me. I'll just deal with whatever comes my way. Before he entered Qingfeng Palace, he had already admitted that he had killed Lei Jun, the direct disciple of the sect leader of Izumo sect. Then he had also killed Lei Zhong, the strongest person among the younger generation in Izumo sect. From that moment on, he had completely offended Izumo sect. Unless he could kill all the witnesses at that time. Otherwise, Izumo sect would find out that he had killed Lei Zhong and Lei Jun sooner or later. I'm not even afraid of Izumo sect. Why would I, Duan Lingtian, be afraid of North Nether sect and Anika sect who are equally as famous as Izumo sect? Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up when he thought of this. For a moment, a strong and fearless confidence radiated from his body. Since he had thought it through, Duan Lingtian no longer thought about Zuiyu's escape. So what if it's the 3 great second-rate forces? I, Duan Lingtian, am not afraid of them. Duan Lingtian, who was full of confidence, turned around and walked toward the bumpy road. After passing through the bumpy road easily, he once again entered the central area of the fourth level of Qingfeng Palace. A body lay quietly in the central area of the fourth level. It was Su Qing's body. Not far from Su Qing's body, a green vine extended from the ground and lifted up a piece of the floor. On the other side, a stone platform stood where the floor was lifted up. There was an exquisite little box on it. It was the box that seemed to contain the golden key. "You've saved my life too." Duan Lingtian moved and disappeared from the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the stone platform where the little box was placed. At the same time he reached out and picked up the little box. As Duan Lingtian opened the little box, a golden crescent-shaped key appeared before his eyes. This golden key was exactly the same as the silver key and the copper key in his hand. The only difference was the color. "I've finally gathered all 3 keys." Duan Lingtian's heart moved as he took out the other 2 keys and stacked the 3 keys together. When the gold, silver and copper crescent-shaped keys were stacked together, Duan Lingtian could clearly sense the aura of the inscription formation. It came from the 3 keys. "There's an inscription formation on these 3 keys?" The corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth twitched slightly. When the 3 keys were stacked together, he realized he had combined and activated the inscription formation on the 3 keys. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Subsequently, a series of loud noises came from the top of Duan Lingtian's head and attracted Duan Lingtian's attention. Duan Lingtian lifted his head and saw it clearly. The ceiling above the central area of the 4th level was slowly moving and opening the door to the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace for him. Not only that, boom. Under Duan Lingtian's gaze, after the door to the 5th level opened, a huge box fell and landed not far away from him. It was a box that was completely black and looked extremely ordinary. However, it gave Duan Lingtian an extraordinary feeling. "This is ink steel." When Duan Lingtian saw the box, his eyes could not help but narrow as he said in shock, "Isn't this too exaggerated? The entire box is made of ink steel? Extravagant. This is too extravagant." Ink steel was a refining material that Duan Lingtian learned about from the Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory. If it was not for the Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory, he would not have been able to recognize ink steel. Ink steel was a refining material that could be used to refine quasi-royal grade spirit weapons or even royal grade spirit weapons. It was extremely tough. If a grade 1 weapon craftsman were to refine it, he would need to burn it with a grade 1 weapon flame for a month before the ink steel would show any signs of softening. It would take 3 months for the ink steel to turn into a puddle of liquid. Based on this, one could see how tough the ink steel was. "Although I'm strong now, it's almost impossible for me to destroy this ink steel." Duan Lingtian shook his head and studied the box that was completely made of ink steel in front of him. The box was tightly locked, revealing 3 identical keyholes that were arranged in a row. "Is this the keyhole for the 3 keys?" When Duan Lingtian saw the 3 keyholes on the box, he could not help but look at the 3 keys in his hand. His breathing quickened. It could be said that he had put in a lot of effort to obtain these 3 keys. Especially on the 4th floor of Qingfeng Palace, he was almost killed by Su Qing and Zuoyu. It could be said that he had risked his life to obtain the golden key. This box can only be opened with 3 keys. Moreover, it's an extravagant box that's made of ink steel. I wonder what kind of treasures are in it? Filled with excitement, Duan Lingtian stuffed the 3 keys in his hand into the 3 keyholes on the box one by one. A soft sound reverberated in the air. Under Duan Lingtian's attentive gaze, the box opened. At once, everything inside was exposed before his eyes. A fiery red soft sword that was as thin as a cicada's wing lay quietly in the box. Unlike ordinary swords that were 3 feet long, this fiery red soft sword was 5 feet long. Moreover, there was a faint red glow around it. With just one look, one could tell that it was not an ordinary item. This sword. With just one look, Duan Lingtian realized that the fiery red soft sword in front of him gave him a familiar feeling. However, he was almost certain that this was his first time seeing this sword. Could it be that the Reincarnation Emperor Wu is familiar with it? But not me? With just a thought, Duan Lingtian began to search the Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory. It didn't take long for him to get the answer he wanted. So, this fiery red soft sword is a spirit weapon that the Reincarnation Emperor Wu personally refined back then? Just like the sword in my hand, it's also a quasi-royal grade spirit sword. After learning about the origin of the fiery red soft sword, Duan Lingtian had to admit that he was slightly disappointed. Young man, congratulations on gathering 3 keys and obtaining the refined weapon that I obtained by chance back then. This refined weapon is even more powerful than a grade 1 spirit weapon. It can increase one's strength by 2 times. At the same time, the polyphony formation in the box was activated, and a voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears. It was a message from the Qingfeng Emperor Wu. His tone was solemn. Based on the Qingfeng Emperor Wu's tone, one could tell that he treasured this quasi-royal grade spirit sword a lot. I'm afraid Martial Emperor Qingfeng would never have imagined that the person who obtained the sword he left behind after so many years probably doesn't care about the sword at all. Duan Lingtian sighed as he looked at the fiery red soft sword that was as thin as a cicada's wing in the box. He already had a quasi-royal grade spirit sword a long time ago. Having another one would not help him at all. Chapter 1002. Ink steel was a necessary material to refine quasi-royal grade spirit weapons and royal grade spirit weapons. It was extremely precious. Back then, in order to refine quasi-royal grade spirit weapons and royal grade spirit weapons, Reincarnation Emperor Wu had racked his brains to obtain a limited amount of ink steel. The amount of ink steel was not even 1% of the ink steel that was used to forge the box. This sword, Duan Lingtian lifted his hand and took out the fiery red flexible sword that was as thin as a cicada's wing. He held it in his hand and swung it gently. Buzz! The 5-foot-long fiery red flexible sword vibrated and let out a clear sword chime that was pleasing to the ear. It was a quasi-royal grade spirit sword after all. Duan Lingtian quickly put it away. At the same time, Duan Lingtian did not forget to put away the box that was completely made of ink steel. To him, this was a real treasure that he would need to refine quasi-royal grade spirit weapons and royal grade spirit weapons in the future. Currently, Duan Lingtian had the intention of preparing for a rainy day. 3 keys to open the door to the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace and open the box that contains the quasi-royal grade spirit sword. Shaking his head, Duan Lingtian glanced at the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace. In the end, he did not go up directly. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the ground. Cultivate. This was what Duan Lingtian wanted to do now. In his opinion, if he was not mistaken, the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace should be where the body of Qingfeng Emperor Wu was located. According to the test that Qingfeng Emperor Wu had set up in the lower 4 levels of Qingfeng Palace, it was not difficult to guess that the test on the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace would be even more difficult. I'm afraid it won't be easy to find the body of Qingfeng Emperor Wu. I'm injured now. Moreover, I haven't fully digested the medicinal efficacy of the amethyst fruit. I should wait until I'm done cultivating and my injuries are healed before I challenge the 5th level. After Duan Lingtian made up his mind, he focused on cultivating and healing his injuries. Time passed quietly. After an unknown period of time, Duan Lingtian noticed that the redbud fruit's medicinal efficacy and the origin energy that flowed in his meridians had completely vanished. At this moment, his cultivation base had just reached the bottleneck of the 6th level void transformation stage. It's already not bad to be able to hold on for so long. Even so, Duan Lingtian was pleasantly surprised by the violet spike fruit's medicinal effect. Although the violet spike fruit's medicinal effect is gone, the rebirth pill's overbearing medicinal effect is still able to circulate the origin energy in my body at the same speed. Break through the bottleneck in one go and break through to the 6th level void transformation stage. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and continued to cultivate. 9 Dragons War Sovereign Technique, Roaming Dragon Transformation. Naturally, when Duan Lingtian raised his cultivation base, he did not forget to heal his injuries and comprehend his concept while holding the 2 concept fragments. Fragments of concept of wind were naturally indispensable. Currently, the improvement of his wind concept was equivalent to the improvement of his fire concept as well. Therefore, he would not let go of any opportunity to raise his wind concept. As for the other 3 concepts, he mainly comprehended the earth concept. The reason he made such a choice was very simple. The earth concept could borrow the earth energy through communicating with the earth. If the earth concept encountered a bottleneck, he would comprehend the thunder concept from the remaining 2 concepts because the thunder concept was at a higher level than the sword concept. He would comprehend concepts as he cultivated. At the same time, Duan Lingtian's injuries were recovering rapidly under the medicinal effect of the life recovery pill. He soon recovered to his prime as though he was never injured. Duan Lingtian's body that was sitting cross-legged suddenly trembled slightly. Subsequently, he opened his eyes and a bright light flashed through his eyes. At the same time, his face was filled with surprise. The 6th level void transformation stage. I've finally broken through. Yes, the medicinal effect of the rebirth pill has also returned to my Dantian. As Duan Lingtian was mumbling to himself in surprise, a milky white flame rose from his body and caused the heaven and earth energy above his head to stir. In the end, the stirring heaven and earth energy condensed and transformed into the heaven and earth phenomenon. Ancient horned dragon's silhouettes appeared and wriggled down lifelike. 400 silhouettes. 500 silhouettes. 600 silhouettes. The number of ancient horned dragon's silhouettes continued to rise until it reached 800 silhouettes. The origin energy of the 6th level void transformation stage was equivalent to the strength of 800 ancient horned dragons. There's still the concept. When Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up, the earth concept appeared and merged with the origin energy, causing the origin energy to transform into waves of khaki energy that twined around his body. When the earth concept appeared, the heaven and earth phenomenon above the sky turned into 900 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. Unfortunately, due to the impact of the bumpy road on Qingfeng Palace's 4th level, I can't borrow the earth energy here. Otherwise, I'd be able to increase the strength of another 50 ancient horned dragons. Duan Lingtian lifted his head and glanced at the 900 ancient horned dragons silhouettes above his head before he sighed. Soon after, Duan Lingtian returned to his senses. At that instant, the khaki origin energy trembled and emitted waves of sharp aura. It was none other than the sword concept. When the 9th level intermediate sword concept appeared, the heaven and earth phenomenon above the sky changed again and turned into 1,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. Boom, boom, boom. A series of muffled thunder reverberated in the air. Subsequently, purple lightning that twined around the khaki energy appeared. 1st level advanced thunder concept. It was equivalent to the strength of 200 ancient horned dragons. For a time, the heaven and earth phenomenon above the sky changed again and turned into 1,200 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. Subsequently, the purple robe on Duan Lingtian's body fluttered, and waves of deep green wind swept out. At once, another 400 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared in the sky. Whoosh! Accompanying the appearance of the green wind was a vast flame that filled the sky, causing another 400 ancient horned dragon silhouettes to appear in the sky. It was the 3rd level advanced wind concept and the 3rd level advanced fire concept that was born from it. At that moment, the heaven and earth phenomenon above Duan Lingtian's head had already formed 2,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. It was majestic and breathtaking. All of this did not end because of this. As the green wind merged with the flames soared again. The wind concept was infused with the fire concept. At once, another 200 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared. It was the fire concept's 50% increase in strength under the method of infusing the wind concept with the fire concept. 2,200 ancient horned dragon silhouettes hovered above Duan Lingtian's head, causing Duan Lingtian to narrow his eyes slightly. If I use the quasi-royal grade spirit sword again? With just a thought, a sword appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand. It was the quasi-royal grade spirit sword that he had been using earlier. As Duan Lingtian's energy merged with the quasi-royal grade spirit sword, the heaven and earth energy in the sky stirred, and 800 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared out of thin air. At that moment, Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was at the 6th level void transformation stage. When his origin energy fully exploded, the strength it contained was equivalent to the strength of 800 ancient horned dragons. The quasi-royal grade spirit sword's amplification was equivalent to the strength of 800 ancient horned dragons. The 3,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes gathered above Duan Lingtian's head and fell into his eyes, constantly impacting his eyeballs. Nothing was more than a feast for the eyes. The sword in my hand contains the strength of 3,000 ancient horned dragons. Duan Lingtian held the quasi-royal grade spirit sword in his hand and stared at the various concepts that were fused with his origin energy. His face was filled with heartfelt excitement. If I borrow the earth energy as well, my strength is equivalent to the strength of 3,050 ancient horned dragons when I unleash my full strength. The moment he thought of this, Duan Lingtian's heart surged. Whoosh! Without anyone noticing, Duan Lingtian stood up and stood with his sword in hand. The purple robe on his body fluttered without the wind. His body emitted a strong confidence that came from the bottom of his heart. A 9th level void transformation martial artist who has comprehended the 9th level void transformation concept. Without a spirit weapon, his full strength is equivalent to the strength of 2,200 ancient horned dragons. If such a martial artist doesn't use a spirit weapon, I'm not afraid at all. However, if he uses a spirit weapon, I'm far from being a match for him, even if he's only using a grade 2 spirit weapon. The quasi-royal grade spirit sword in Duan Lingtian's hand was undoubtedly of a very high grade. It could even double his strength. However, Duan Lingtian's cultivation base was only at the 6th level void transformation stage. The double boost on his origin energy was only equivalent to the strength of 800 ancient horned dragons. However, a 9th level void transformation martial artist would have the strength of 1,200 ancient horned dragons if he fully unleashed his origin energy. Even if he only used a grade 2 spirit weapon with a 78% boost, he would still be able to increase the strength of 930 ancient horned dragons. The boost was much stronger than Duan Lingtian. I can't believe that my strength can achieve such a breakthrough after coming to the 4th level of Qingfeng Palace. Initially, my full strength was only equivalent to the strength of 1,600 ancient horned dragons. Now I can exert the strength of 3,000 ancient horned dragons. My strength has almost doubled. Duan Lingtian's emotions surged. He could not calm down for a long time. After a while he lifted his head and looked at the door that led to the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace. Now it's time for me to go up and find out. No matter what test Emperor Wu set up above, I'll pass them one by one. I'll get the 3 profundity fragments from his body. Duan Lingtian's eyes shone brightly. He flew up into the air and entered the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace, which was also the last level. When Duan Lingtian entered Qingfeng Palace, Zuiyu left the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace. Not only did Zuiyu leave Qingfeng Palace, but he had also left the central area of the Martial Emperor's secret treasure and returned to the entrance that he came from. After entering the entrance that belonged to him, Zuiyu entered the illusory formation again and rushed back the way he came. Duan Lingtian, I'd like to see how you're going to escape from the 3 major sects. Chapter 1003. In the central area of Emperor Wu's secret treasure. On the 2nd level of Qingfeng Palace, 2 figures walked side by side. They shuttled through every corner of the 2nd level as though they were looking for something. There's nothing on the 2nd level. Isn't that Emperor Wu a little too stingy? The red-clothed young man furrowed his brows and cursed. Unlike the red-clad young man, the blue-clad young man next to him had a calm expression. His eyes were cold as though he did not hear the red-clad young man's words. If someone was here and saw these 2 young men, they would definitely be shocked. This was because these 2 young men looked exactly the same. Their identities were obvious. They were the Nangong brothers from the 5 Element sect. Nangong Chen and Nangong Yi. Whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly the sound of wind whistling reverberated from the sky, causing Nangong Yi's expression to change. As for Nangong Chen, he reached out his hand at lightning speed and grabbed in the direction of the sound. What's that? Nangong Yi, who was slow to react, could not help but look at Nangong Chen curiously. Nangong Chen, who had a calm expression and a cold gaze, had a complete change of expression when he opened his hand that grabbed the item that fell. A look of surprise appeared on his face. There was a hint of excitement in the depth of his eyes. Profundity fragment. Looking at the 2 fragments in Nangong Chen's hand, Nangong Yi was stunned for a moment before he gulped hard. One of the 2 fragments in Nangong Chen's hand was shrouded in purple energy while the other was shrouded in khaki energy. The Thunder Profundity Fragment. The Earth Profundity Fragment. Before the Nangong brothers could recover from their surprise, a familiar yet unfamiliar voice entered their ears clearly. Congratulations, lucky young man. It's because someone failed to retrieve the 3 profundity fragments from my body in time after opening the 5th level of Qingfeng Palace. For this reason, the inscription formation that I left behind activated on its own and drew the 2 Monarch Stage profundity fragments out of my body to an activated drop point on the 4th floor of Qingfeng Palace. I've set up densely packed drop points on the 4th floor of Qingfeng Palace with an inscription formation. Once the inscription formation is activated, the drop points will be activated automatically. The voice that entered the ears of the Nangong brothers was not unfamiliar to them. They could tell that this was the voice of the Emperor Wu expert who left behind the secret treasure of Emperor Wu. Even the palace they were in now was left behind by Emperor Wu. After regaining their senses from the martial emperor's message, Nangong Chen and Nangong Yi could not help but look at each other. For a moment, they could see the astonishment in each other's eyes. This works too? The 4th floor of Qingfeng Palace had drop points set up by Emperor Wu with an inscription formation. Everyone on the 4th floor could activate the drop points? The 2 Monarch Stage profundity fragments would appear at one of the drop points through the inscription formation? And now, it just so happened to appear at the drop points that they had activated? Our luck is too heaven-defying, isn't it? Nangong Yi gulped hard when he regained his senses. His breathing was rapid as he spoke with some difficulty. Yes. This time, Nangong Chen nodded in agreement, which was rare. But why isn't it the water profundity fragment? Nangong Yi said in a slightly frantic manner. Of the two monarch stage profundity fragments, one was the earth profundity fragment, and the other was the thunder profundity fragment. However, Nangong Chen could use the earth profundity fragment. As for the thunder profundity fragment, it was destined to be handed over to the sect. I wonder which unlucky bastard did not retrieve the 3 profundity fragments from Qingfeng Emperor Wu's body in time after activating the 5th floor of Qingfeng Palace. Soon Nangong Yi seemed to know what was done was done. He was no longer angry. When he recalled the person that Qingfeng Emperor Wu mentioned, he gloated. If he wasn't unlucky, the 2 profundity fragments would have been his, not ours. It was rare for Nangong Chen to say such a long sentence. Compared to the excitement of the Nangong brothers, Duanling Tian, who had ascended to the 5th floor from the 4th floor of Qingfeng Palace, was very depressed. All of this originated from the message that Qingfeng Emperor Wu left behind. Young man, although you've arrived at the 5th floor of Qingfeng Palace, you didn't come up after activating the 5th floor. For this reason, the inscription formation that I left behind has guided the 2 monarch stage profundity fragments from my body to the 4th floor of Qingfeng Palace to find their new owner. Duanling Tian almost threw up blood when he heard Qingfeng Emperor Wu's words. He didn't come up after activating the 5th floor of Qingfeng Palace? It was because he was worried that the 5th floor of Qingfeng Palace would be dangerous. That was why he planned to ascend to the 5th floor after his cultivation base had broken through and his injuries had healed. If I knew there was no test on the 5th floor, I wouldn't have taken so long to ascend. Duanling Tian clenched his teeth as he looked at the skeleton covered in a green robe that was close to him. The 2 monarch stage profundity fragments in Qingfeng Emperor Wu's body were gone just like that because he had arrived a little late. As soon as he ascended to the 5th floor of Qingfeng Palace, he noticed that Qingfeng Emperor Wu did not set up any test on the 5th floor. There was only one skeleton sitting cross-legged nearby. It was Qingfeng Emperor Wu's body. Although Qingfeng Emperor Wu had passed away many years ago, his skeleton was well preserved. He maintained a cross-legged cultivation posture, giving off an aura of vicissitudes. After taking a deep breath, Duanling Tian took out the only remaining profundity fragment in Qingfeng Emperor Wu's body. Unlike the monarch stage profundity fragment, this profundity fragment did not glow with energy. Duanling Tian held the profundity fragment in his hand. There seemed to be wisps of deep green wind surrounding it, emitting waves of terrifying aura. Duanling Tian felt a wave of pressure when he was touched by the waves of aura. He could not help but take 2 steps back in shock. This is the Emperor Stage Wind Profundity Fragment? After taking a deep breath, Duanling Tian studied the profundity fragment in his hand seriously. He began to search Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory and soon obtained his answer. The profundity fragment in his hand was the Emperor Stage Wind Profundity Fragment. According to Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory, this profundity fragment should be a 2nd-level Emperor Stage Wind Profundity Fragment. After searching Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memory again, Duanling Tian obtained his answer. The 2nd-level Emperor Stage Wind Profundity Fragment. At this moment, Duanling Tian's breathing quickened. With this 2nd-level Emperor Stage Wind Profundity Fragment, it means that when I comprehend the 9th-level Monarch Stage Wind Profundity in the future, I'll be able to comprehend the Emperor Stage Wind Profundity in one fell swoop. Duanling Tian was extremely excited. After half a day, Duanling Tian finally calmed down a little. However, his face was still filled with endless excitement and joy. At this moment, he had completely forgotten about the other 2 monarch stage profundity fragments. In his world, there was only the 2nd-level Emperor Stage Wind Profundity Fragment left. Gasp. After taking a deep breath, Duanling Tian put the 2nd-level Emperor Stage Wind Profundity Fragment away into his spatial ring with trembling hands. Only then did his excited emotions completely calm down. This is Qingfeng Palace's 5th level. There should be other treasures, right? Subsequently, Duanling Tian began to search Qingfeng Palace's 5th level, but he found nothing in the end. Apart from the Emperor Stage Profundity Fragment, there was nothing else. I'm still too greedy? This Emperor Stage Profundity Fragment is comparable to all the other treasures left behind by Qingfeng Emperor Wu. A smile appeared on Duanling Tian's face when he thought about the Emperor Stage Profundity Fragment. I wonder who obtained the 2 Monarch Stage Profundity Fragments? However, since I've already obtained the Emperor Stage Profundity Fragments, it's time for me to leave. With just a thought, Duan Lingtian left Qingfeng Palace's 5th level and returned to the 4th level. Subsequently, he went down the stone staircase that Zuiyu had left from. I wonder if I'll meet Zuiyu again? If I do, I'll definitely kill him. Cold killing intent flashed in Duan Lingtian's eyes. Duan Lingtian soon arrived at Qingfeng Palace's 1st level as he walked down the stone staircase. Before he could react, he had already entered the illusory formation. Under Qingfeng Emperor Wu's guidance, Duan Lingtian walked out of the illusory formation and left Qingfeng Palace. Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian heard a familiar voice as soon as he walked out of Qingfeng Palace. When he lifted his head and looked over, he realized Huang Daniu was already waiting outside. Huang Daniu's eyes lit up when he saw him coming out. Soon after, Duan Lingtian noticed something else. Not far away from Huang Daniu, a young man was hovering in the air. His expression was extremely grave. When Huang Daniu greeted him, the young man's body began to tremble as if Huang Daniu was some kind of monster. He's a 5-element sect's disciple? A moment later, Duan Lingtian recognized the young man. He seems to be a Fire Peak's disciple as well. He was no stranger to Fire Peak. Hu Fei, the person he killed when he first entered Emperor Wu's secret treasure, was a Fire Peak's disciple in the 5-element sect. Moreover, he was the direct disciple of the Peak Master of Fire Peak. What's wrong? Duan Lingtian looked at Huang Daniu and asked curiously. Duan Lingtian, how are you going to thank me this time? Huang Daniu chuckled. Thank you? Thank you for what? Upon hearing this, Duan Lingtian could not help but be stunned as he asked in confusion. What if I say, I found the person who spread the fake news about you obtaining the profundity fragment? The smile on Huang Daniu's face grew even brighter. You found that person? Duan Lingtian could not help but be shocked by Huang Daniu's words. Chapter 1004. It's you? In an instant, cold gleams shot out from Duan Lingtian's eyes as though he was about to devour someone. That's right, it's me. After the Fire Peak disciple was terrified to the extreme, he seemed to have lost his cool. He clenched his teeth and stared at Duan Lingtian before he braced himself and said, I don't think I know you? Why do you want to harm me? Upon hearing the Fire Peak disciple's confession, Duan Lingtian's face turned grave. His eyes narrowed as a cold gleam flashed across them. I owe senior brother Hu Fei a life. The Fire Peak disciple said in a deep voice. Hu Fei. Duan Lingtian was stunned at first before he finally understood what was going on. As it turned out, this Fire Peak disciple was trying to avenge Hu Fei who he had killed. However, Hu Fei knew how to save people as well. He found it a little hard to believe. I can't believe that Hu Fei can get someone to owe him a life. Before Duan Lingtian could say anything, Huang Daniu could not help but mock him. Hu Fei was the direct disciple of the Peak Master of Fire Peak. At the same time, he was also the traitor of Wood Peak. In order to stand out, not only did Hu Fei betray Wood Peak who had nurtured him, he even betrayed his own master and savior. He had no reputation in the 5-element sect at all. Now, anyone would be surprised to hear that a person like Hu Fei would save people. However, both Duan Lingtian and Huang Daniu did not know about this at all. The reason why Hu Fei saved this Fire Peak disciple's life was more for his own benefit. It was not purely for the sake of saving this Fire Peak disciple. Just like Duan Lingtian and Huang Daniu's understanding of Hu Fei was a cold-blooded animal. It was impossible for him to be merciful and benevolent. Everything he had done was for himself. Selfishness was his synonym. If that's the case, you can return your life to him. Duan Lingtian said indifferently. Then he raised his hand at lightning speed and condensed a sword ray that shot out. It was so fast that even Huang Daniu could not catch a glimpse of it. Let alone that Fire Peak disciple. Puchi. A soft sound was heard. An arrow of blood spurted out from the throat of the Fire Peak disciple. The blood splattered in the air like blooming red roses. It was dazzling and eye-catching. Following that, the Fire Peak disciple's body fell to the ground and turned into a pile of minced meat. Duan Lingtian's attack was decisive and merciless. So fast. Huang Daniu's pupils contracted. Everything happened in the blink of an eye, leaving him no time to react. He only saw Duan Lingtian raise his hand. In the next moment, the Fire Peak disciple died. From the beginning until the end, he did not see how Duan Lingtian made his move. It seems like Duan Lingtian had a fortuitous encounter in there. Otherwise, it's impossible for his strength to increase so much. Thinking of this, Huang Daniu looked at Duan Lingtian with envy. To Duan Lingtian, killing the Fire Peak disciple was like doing something insignificant. All of a sudden he seemed to have recalled something. He looked at Huang Daniu curiously. "Daniu, how did you find out?" He. Naturally, Huang Daniu knew what Duan Lingtian was asking about. After chuckling, he continued to say, "I met him in there. I happened to hear him spreading a rumor that you obtained the Emperor's Stage Profundity Fragment and wanted to harm you. Then I caught him, and after a round of coercion, he finally confessed to me how he had harmed you." Huang Daniu finished his sentence in one breath. Duan Lingtian came to a realization. He looked at Huang Daniu gratefully. "No matter what, thank you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known who was the person who tried to harm me in the dark." Although the person who spread the rumor outside Emperor Wu's secret treasure and wanted to harm him did not succeed, it was still a matter of time before this. But that matter was undoubtedly a knot in his heart. He desperately wanted to know who was the person who tried to harm him in the dark. If he did not find out who that person was, he would feel restless every time he thought about it. There was a hidden person who was harming him in this world. To him it was undoubtedly a huge potential threat. "It's nothing. It's nothing. Moreover, you gave me a grade 1 spirit weapon earlier and helped me in there. Consider it as me returning the favor." Huang Daniu waved his hand and said generously. Duan Lingtian nodded and did not continue to dwell on this topic. Instead he asked curiously, "Daniu, how long have you been out?" "About half an hour." Huang Daniu pondered for a moment before he replied. "Whoosh." While Duan Lingtian and Huang Daniu were chatting, another figure flew out of the palace. "It's a disciple from a second-rate force. Duan Lingtian, should we kill him? Otherwise, he'll spread rumors after he exits from entrance number 1. Huang Daniu stared at the figure in the distance. His eyes gleamed fiercely. "No need." Duan Lingtian shook his head under the horrified gaze of the Anika sect's disciple, who had a change of expression after hearing Huang Daniu's words. When he was brought out of the illusory formation, he had already vaguely realized it. It was very likely that Zuoyu had left Qingfeng Palace and the real Martial Emperor's secret treasure. It would not take long for him to leave from entrance number 1 and tell Izumo sect that he had killed Lei Zhong and Lei Jun. Moreover, Zuoyu would also tell North Nether sect that he had killed Su Qin. Moreover, Zuoyu would definitely tell Anika sect that he had the Monarch Stage Profundity Fragment in his possession and that he might have obtained the 3 Profundity Fragments from Emperor Wu's body in Qingfeng Palace. At that time, not only would he have to face Izumo sect and North Nether sect who would seek revenge, but he would also have to face Anika sect who wanted to snatch the Profundity Fragments from him. The 3 second-rate forces in the northern desert had their eyes on him at the same time. Just the thought of it sent chills down Duan Lingtian's spine. To the current him, 3 second-rate forces were undoubtedly colossal existences. The Anika sect's disciple sighed in relief when he saw that Duan Lingtian had no intention of attacking him. He looked at Duan Lingtian gratefully before he flew away. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Subsequently, people began to leave one after another. Other than the few remaining disciples from the second-rate forces, the survivors from the third-rate forces also left Qingfeng Palace one by one. Soon after, a familiar figure appeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes. Xian Bei. The corners of Duan Lingtian's mouth curled up into a smile when he saw the young monk before him, and he took the initiative to greet him. Duan Lingtian. Xian Bei felt a little awkward when he saw Duan Lingtian. Back then, when he was at Skywolf Fort, the person who challenged him to a battle had unknowingly possessed a strength that far surpassed his own. Now he had completely lost his temper when he faced the other party. "I'll take my leave first." Perhaps Xian Bei felt particularly depressed in front of Duan Lingtian, so he quickly left after bidding farewell to Duan Lingtian. As for the Empyrean Temple's disciples who might have survived in Qingfeng Palace, he completely ignored them. "Ah, Duan Lingtian, this little bald donkey is afraid of you." Huang Daniu could not help but laugh when he recalled the scene when Xian Bei took the initiative to challenge Duan Lingtian before they entered the palace. At that time, Xian Bei was high-spirited and full of confidence. However, he could only flee in the face of Duan Lingtian now. Compared to Huang Daniu's unbridled laughter, Duan Lingtian did not have much of an emotional fluctuation. Now that his strength had increased, his mentality had undergone a tremendous change. He no longer regarded Xian Bei, a young disciple of the Empyrean Temple, as an opponent. With his current strength, there were only a few people in the Empyrean Temple who were qualified to be his opponent. Not long after Xian Bei left, Zhang Yan also came out. After Zhang Yan came out, he saw Duan Lingtian immediately. After bidding farewell to Duan Lingtian, he left. Zhang Yan. Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes as he looked at Zhang Yan's departing silhouette. He only regained his senses when Zhang Yan's silhouette disappeared before his eyes. Zhang Yan was from the Dark Han dynasty like him, and they were from the same imperial kingdom. When he faced Zhang Yan, he felt a sense of familiarity. Perhaps it was because Zhang Yan was from the same hometown as him. Both of them were from the Dark Han dynasty, and both of them were the strongest among the younger generation in a third-rate force in the northern desert. This was enough to shock people. Moreover, he and Zhang Yan were not only from the Dark Han dynasty, they were also from the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom under the Darkstone Empire. Silhouettes flew out of Qingfeng Palace and left one after another. Big Brother Zhang. Not long after, a silhouette flew out of Qingfeng Palace and attracted Duan Lingtian's attention. It was none other than Zhang Shouyong. Zhang Shouyong's eyes lit up when he saw Duan Lingtian and Huang Daniu. Half an hour had passed since Zhang Shouyong came out. Whoosh. At this moment, a fiery red silhouette that Duan Lingtian was extremely familiar with flew out of Qingfeng Palace and arrived beside him like a fire spirit. Elder Brother Duan. A soft and pleasant voice entered Duan Lingtian's ears. At the same time, the silhouette that was like a fire spirit stood beside Duan Lingtian. Her graceful body was filled with temptation, and her beautiful face seemed to be able to turn the world upside down. Tian Wu. Looking at the lady before him, a gentle smile appeared on Duan Lingtian's face. His eyes were filled with love. Where's Su Li? Why hasn't he come out yet? Huang Daniu could not help but frown when he saw Feng Tianwu had come out. Let's wait a little longer, Duan Lingtian said. However, after waiting for a while, no one came out of Qingfeng Palace. Duan Lingtian and the other three still did not see Su Li. Could something have happened to Su Li? Huang Daniu's face darkened as he muttered. Don't jinx it. Maybe Su Li came out earlier than you? He left on his own because he wasn't sure if we came out or not. Duan Lingtian cursed as he spoke of his own opinion. Of course, even though he said that, he was still uncertain. Let's go out first then, Zhang Shouyong suggested. All right. Duan Lingtian and the other two did not have any objections. Subsequently, the four of them departed from the central area of Emperor Wu's secret treasure. As soon as they left the central area, Duan Lingtian and the other three parted ways. Chapter 1005. Duan Lingtian found his entrance in a spacious cave by following his memory of walking all the way from the periphery of Emperor Wu's secret treasure. At the same time, this place was also an exit. Whoosh. Without any hesitation, Duan Lingtian made his move. After passing through the exit, he continued to fly out. With a flash, he realized he had returned to the boundless grassland in the illusory formation. Looking at the boundless grassland in front of him, he felt extremely peaceful in his heart. With my current speed, I can save more than half of the time compared to when I first came in. At this moment, Duan Lingtian, who had achieved a breakthrough in his strength, was full of confidence. Subsequently, Qingfeng Emperor Wu's voice resonated from the polyphony formation that was integrated into the illusory formation. It entered Duan Lingtian's ears and guided Duan Lingtian in the direction to leave. If it were not for this, Duan Lingtian would have definitely gotten lost. The illusory formation was unpredictable. Although he still appeared in the grassland, there were some substantial changes to this grassland. It was completely different from the grassland he passed through last time. Not only that. At this moment, Duan Lingtian, who was flying in the sky above the grassland, soon discovered another problem. When I came here, there were many offensive inscription formations that were integrated into the illusory formation that attacked me. However, I don't see any trace of those inscription formations now. Duan Lingtian muttered to himself as he hurried along. Just as Duan Lingtian and the group of young powerhouses were hurrying along in the illusory formation. At the intersection of the central area and the northern area of the northern desert, there was a Hengduan mountain range that was particularly quiet. In the sky above a valley in the Hengduan mountain range, three old men were sitting cross-legged in the sky. They were in a state of cultivation and turned a deaf ear to everything around them. The three old men sat cross-legged in the sky as though they were one with the heaven and earth. There was no distinction between them anymore. Whoosh. Suddenly, a slight wind whistling sound came from the bottom of the valley. The sound of wind whistling was not very loud, but when it entered the ears of the three old men, it was like a thunderclap, causing them to open their eyes at the same time. A bright light flashed across their eyes. Then their gazes fell on the young man who had just come out of the gray light shield. Zuiyu. One of them was an old man with white hair and eyebrows. He looked like an immortal, but when he saw the young man he couldn't help but frown. The young man who came out of the gray light shield was none other than Zuoyu, the #1 person among the younger generation of Anika sect. Master. When Zuoyu came out, his face was still a little ugly. When he heard someone calling him, he hurriedly looked over and bowed respectfully. The old man before him was his master, Baiyu Hai. He was also the only martial monarch powerhouse in Anika sect. Zuoyu, what's going on? Why are you the first to come out? Baiyu Hai asked in a deep voice. In his opinion, those who entered the Emperor Wu's secret treasure would have a higher chance of obtaining the profundity fragment that their Anika sect needed if they stayed in there for as long as possible. However, his direct disciple was the first to come out. Ah, old Bai, it seems like your direct disciple isn't that great after all. A sturdy old man nearby laughed out loud. Indeed, he's not that great. He came out of the Emperor Wu's secret treasure so quickly. I don't think he obtained any profundity fragment, another old man said in a gray-robed old man's expression. The other gray-robed old man said indifferently as he looked at Baiyu Hai with a mocking gaze. When Baiyu Hai heard the two old men's mocking words, his face turned grave. He looked at Zuoyu with a hint of displeasure in his eyes. At the same time he asked in a deep voice, Zuoyu, did you obtain any profundity fragment? No. When Zuoyu heard the two old men's words, he was shocked by his master's words. He did not dare to hesitate and quickly answered. I told you. It's impossible for him to obtain a profundity fragment if he came out so quickly. The gray-robed old man said again. Old Bai, I've always heard you boast about how outstanding your direct disciple is. Now it seems like he's just SOSO. I'm afraid he's not even as good as my useless disciple, Lei Zhong. The sturdy old man smiled at Baiyu Hai. When Baiyu Hai heard the two old men's mocking words, his expression turned even more grave. He glared at Zuoyu as though he expected better from him. Zuoyu could not help but smile wryly when he was glared at by Baiyu Hai. However, when his gaze fell on the other two old men, his eyes could not help but flash with a trace of ridicule. At the same time he said bluntly, Seniors, the reason I came out so quickly is to report to both of you. Although Zuoyu appeared humble when he faced the two old men, there was a hint of mockery in his eyes. These two old fogies were mocking his master, saying that he was useless? He was curious. What kind of expression would these two old men have when they found out the most outstanding disciples of their Izumo sect and North Nether sect had been killed? Report? The two old men were stunned when they heard Zuoyu's words. Even Baiyu Hai looked at Zuoyu with a puzzled expression. He was curious why Zuoyu was in such a hurry to report to the two old men. At the same time he could not help but glare at Zuoyu again. In his opinion, nothing was more important than the profundity fragment. Zuoyu had come out of Emperor Wu's secret treasure in advance for the sake of Izumo sect and North Nether sect. It was no doubt that he was playing with the future of Anika sect. Yes. Zuoyu responded to the two puzzled old men in front of him. Zuoyu boy, just tell us what you want. The sturdy old man snorted. Zuoyu boy, you rushed out of Emperor Wu's secret treasure in such a hurry? Don't tell me you want to tell us that our disciples have obtained a profundity fragment? The gray-robed old man looked at Zuoyu and asked nonchalantly. Ah, that's possible. The sturdy old man burst out laughing again when he heard the gray-robed old man's words. Baiyu Hai, who was standing at the side, had a grave expression on his face. Seniors, before I report to you, I hope you'll be mentally prepared. Zuoyu maintained a humble expression on his face, but there was a hint of gloating in the depth of his eyes. Let's see how long you two can be smug for. Mentally prepared? Mentally prepared for obtaining a profundity fragment? You don't have to worry about that, Zuoyu boy. I've already prepared for that. The sturdy old man smiled. He did not notice the gloating in the depth of Zuoyu's eyes. However, the gray-robed old man noticed it. He frowned as an ominous feeling rose in his heart. He asked in a deep voice, What's the matter? Seniors, please restrain your grief. Zuoyu did not hesitate and said bluntly. Restrain your grief? The moment Zuoyu's words left his mouth, Baiyu Hai's expression froze. As for the other two old men, their expressions changed. Zuoyu boy, what do you mean by that? At this moment, regardless of whether it was the sturdy old man or the gray-robed old man, they were no longer as casual as before. They had a serious expression on their faces, causing the atmosphere to become heavy. Senior Tongshan. Zuoyu first looked at the sturdy old man, the Izumo sect's martial monarch powerhouse, and said slowly, Your direct disciple Lei Zhong? Before Zuoyu could finish his sentence, Tongshan's expression changed drastically. At the same time, his words were interrupted by an aura that swept toward him. The terrifying aura landed on him, causing him to take a few steps back involuntarily. At this moment, Zuoyu could feel his internal organs trembling. His vital energy and blood surged up, and there was a sweetness in his throat. Barf. Zuoyu's face flushed, and he spat out a mouthful of blood from the pressure of Tong Shan's martial monarch powerhouse's aura. When a martial monarch powerhouse was enraged, just his aura alone was enough to make a 4th-level void transformation martial artist like him spit out blood. One could imagine how terrifying a martial monarch powerhouse was. Tong Shan. Bai Yuhai's expression changed drastically when he saw Tong Shan oppressing his direct disciple with his aura. Whoosh. At the same time, a surge of aura extended from his body and crushed Tong Shan's aura. However, Tong Shan did not care about this at all. He stared at Zuoyu with his big eyes and asked in a deep voice, "Zuoyu boy, what happened to Lei Zhong?" Zuoyu took a deep breath. Although he was furious, his anger disappeared completely when he looked at Tong Shan. A martial monarch powerhouse was a lofty mountain that he could not surpass. Senior Tong Shan, your direct disciple Lei Jun, was killed. Zuoyu said word by word. Boom. Zuoyu's words were like a bolt from the blue, causing Tong Shan's expression to change drastically. Oh, who was it? Tong Shan moved and appeared in front of Zuoyu in just a blink of an eye. He reached out his hand to grab Zuoyu's shoulder as though he wanted to interrogate Zuoyu about who killed his direct disciple. The current Tong Shan did not have the demeanor that a martial monarch powerhouse should have. Right now he was just an ordinary old man. An ordinary old man who was enraged when he heard that his direct disciple whom he regarded as his grandson was killed. Tong Shan. Earlier, Bai Yuhai was also shocked by Zuoyu's words. When he regained his senses, he saw Tong Shan charging towards Zuoyu. In the next instant he stood in Tong Shan's way. Get lost. Tong Shan was furious when he saw that someone dared to stop him from asking about his direct disciple's murderer. Tong Shan, who had lost his mind, did not care who was standing in front of him. He lifted his hand and struck out with his palm at lightning speed, causing the air around him to explode continuously. As a martial monarch powerhouse, Tong Shan struck out furiously. Apart from causing the air to explode, the force of his palm also stirred up gusts of strong wind that swept through the entire valley in just a blink of an eye. Chapter 1006. Bang. A loud explosion reverberated in the air as Bai Yuhai and Tong Shan's palms collided. When the two martial monarchs' palms collided, a terrifying energy swept out and collided violently. A deafening sound rang in the air and shook the hearts of the people. In the next moment, an invisible air wave swept out in all directions from the point of collision, turning into a vast gust of wind. At once, the flowers and trees in the valley were uprooted. It was a wretched sight. Bai Yuhai and Tong Shan, the two martial monarchs, were in a stalemate. Since their strength was on par with each other, neither of them wanted to give in to the other. Tong Shan. At this moment, the gray-clad old man spoke. You should listen to Zuoyu carefully. What's the use of being so agitated now? Can you avenge your direct disciple? Upon hearing this, Tong Shan suppressed his agitated emotions and moved away from Bai Yuhai. Zuoyu, tell me. Tong Shan took a deep breath and asked Zuoyu, who was shielded behind Bai Yuhai. Seeing that Tong Shan had no intention of attacking him, Zuoyu could not help but heave a sigh of relief. Then he recounted some of his experiences, including the deaths of Lei Zhong and Lei Jun. When Tong Shan learned from Zuoyu that Lei Jun was also dead, he was even more furious. Lei Jun was not only the biological brother of his direct disciple, Lei Zhong, but he was also the direct disciple of the sect leader of Izumo sect. He was the one who brought Lei Jun out. However, now that he had died in Emperor Wu's secret treasure, he did not know how to explain this to the sect leader when he returned to Izumo sect. Due to his superior status in Izumo sect, even the sect leader of Izumo sect had to be respectful to him. This time, even if Lei Jun was dead, the sect leader of Izumo sect would not blame him. But in his heart he couldn't get over it. They were killed by the same person. Just when Tong Shan was about to explode in anger, Zuoyu spoke again in a clear voice. Who? Upon hearing Zuoyu's words, Tong Shan narrowed his eyes. His eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. His voice was cold as though it came from an ice cave. Su Qing. He was also killed by the same person. Zuoyu did not answer Tong Shan for the time being. Instead, he looked at the gray-clad old man standing at the side. He was the martial monarch powerhouse in the North Nether sect, Feng Tong. As soon as Zuoyu's words fell, Feng Tong could no longer calm down. His face changed dramatically and his anger soared to the sky. Who is that person? Although Su Qing wasn't his personal disciple, he was his personal disciple's disciple, his grand disciple. His direct disciple was the current sect leader of the North Nether sect. And now his grand disciple had been killed? His name is Duan Lingtian. Zuiyu, who had successfully infuriated the two martial emperors, said with a cold glint in his eyes. Duan Lingtian, as long as you can come out of this secret treasure of Emperor Wu, alive this time, you will definitely die. Zuiyu swore inwardly. In his opinion, it was impossible for Duan Lingtian, who was targeted by a martial emperor, to survive. He's the person who broke into this secret treasure of Emperor Wu from another entrance. He's a disciple of the third-rate force, the Five-Element sect in the eastern district of the Northern Desert. Zuiyu revealed everything he knew. However, he did not mention the fact that Duan Lingtian had publicly announced his departure from the Five-Element sect. Five-Element sect? Bai Yuhai, who was standing at the side, was shocked when he heard this. Many years ago, a young powerhouse with monstrous innate talent had appeared in the Five-Element sect. Due to this reason, he had heard of the Five-Element sect. When he learned that the two most outstanding young disciples of Izumo sect and North Nether sect had been killed, he no longer blamed his direct disciple, Zuiyu, for not helping Inika sect obtain the Profundity Fragment. Based on Zuiyu's words earlier, Duan Lingtian was shocked. He was lucky to be alive. At this moment, even though Bai Yuhai was a martial emperor, he could not help but break out in cold sweat for his disciple. Duan Lingtian? Five-Element sect? Since you killed my direct disciple, I, Tong Shan, will definitely annihilate your entire sect. Tong Shan raised his head abruptly and looked up at the sky as he shouted. Tong Shan's voice reverberated in the air. A series of majestic sound waves soared into the sky, killing a few unlucky birds that happened to fly by. The birds' corpses fell from the sky. Although Feng Tong did not roar hysterically like Tong Shan, a cold gleam flashed in the depth of his eyes as if he was about to devour someone. His hatred for the Five-Element sect's disciple, Duan Lingtian, whom he had never met, was no less than Tong Shan's hatred. Naturally, Duan Lingtian was unaware of what happened outside entrance number 1. Duan Lingtian was also unaware that he had been targeted by two martial emperor powerhouses. Both of them had the intention to kill him without exception. Very soon, Duan Lingtian returned to the vast platform at the end of the stone stairs at the side of the high platform under entrance number 2. The platform was shrouded in black fog with illusory formations hidden inside. Duan Lingtian stood on the platform and turned a deaf ear to the Blade sects, Empyrean temples and emotion-severing sects disciples who were walking past him. Only when the Five-Element sects disciples walked past him would a faint smile appear on his face. Senior Brother Lingtian. Senior Brother Lingtian. Although Duan Lingtian had announced that he was leaving the Five-Element sect, the Five-Element sect's disciples still treated Duan Lingtian as their senior brother and idol. He had killed the strongest powerhouse among the younger generation in a second-rate force all by himself. In the history of the Five-Element sect, there had never been such a monster. Duan Lingtian waited quietly. Finally, the person he was waiting for appeared. A figure that looked like a fire elf was the first to appear before him. Elder Brother Duan. Tian Wu. Upon seeing the person, Duan Lingtian smiled as he greeted her. The person was none other than Feng Tianwu. Feng Tianwu's current strength far surpassed Huang Daniu, Su Li and Zhang Shouyong. Due to this reason, Duan Lingtian was not surprised that she was the first to appear. Very soon, Huang Daniu, Su Li and Zhang Shouyong walked out of the illusory formation one by one and joined up with Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu. Let's go. Since everyone was here, Duan Lingtian and the other three did not stay any longer. They climbed up the stone stairs one by one and flew to the top of the high platform at lightning speed. Soon after, they arrived at the top of the high platform. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Very soon, Duan Lingtian and the other three borrowed the force from the high platform and flew out of the Emperor Wu's secret treasure one by one. They reappeared in the vast valley outside of entrance number 2. The moment Duan Lingtian and the other three appeared, they became the center of attention. This was especially true for Duan Lingtian. More than 90% of the gazes were on him. Duan Lingtian is out. Among all of us who entered from entrance number 2, as far as I know, only Duan Lingtian has obtained the Profundity Fragment. The Five-Element sect is in luck this time. Apart from the Five-Element sect's disciples, the group of disciples from Blade sect, Empyrean temple and emotion-severing sect could not help but mutter to themselves when they looked at Duan Lingtian. Their voices were filled with envy, but none of them were jealous. This was because they knew that the reason Duan Lingtian was able to obtain and keep the profundity fragment was all because of Duan Lingtian's powerful strength. Otherwise, even if Duan Lingtian was lucky enough to obtain the profundity fragment, he would not have been able to keep it. Sect Leader, Peak Master. After Duan Lingtian came out, he was the first to fly out and arrived next to Guichong, the sect leader of Five Element Sect, and Chiyu, the Peak Master of Wood Peak. With a raise of his hand, a fragment that was shining with purple energy appeared in his hand. It was the third-level Monarch Stage Thunder Profundity Fragment. This Thunder Profundity Fragment was the profundity fragment that Duan Lingtian had obtained from the Sword Monarch's treasure. Ever since he obtained the 8th-level Monarch Stage Profundity Fragment from Peng Bao, this profundity fragment was dispensable to him. Therefore, he decided to give it to the Five Element Sect as a form of repayment for the Five Element Sect's kindness in cultivating him. Great. Under the burning gaze of the other force's senior officials, Guichong took the concept fragment from Duan Lingtian and laughed heartily. His laughter came from the bottom of his heart and it was filled with joy. As a powerhouse at the peak of the void, he had comprehended 2 types of 9th-level void transformation concepts, and one of them happened to be the thunder concept. In other words, this thunder profundity fragment happened to be of use to him. With the help of this thunder profundity fragment, it would not take long for him to successfully comprehend the thunder profundity and break through to the martial monarch stage to become a martial monarch powerhouse. Congratulations, Sect Leader. Qi Feng was the first to congratulate Guichong. Congratulations, Sect Leader. At this moment, the other 3 Peak Masters, including Cha Bai, the Peak Master of Fire Peak, also congratulated Guichong one by one. Congratulations, Sect Leader. Subsequently, the group of 5 Element Sect's disciples who were lucky enough to survive also congratulated Guichong one by one. Duan Lingtian, do you really want to leave the 5 Element Sect? Very soon, Guichong put away the Thunder Profundity fragment in his hand as though he had just obtained a precious treasure. With a solemn expression, he asked Duan Lingtian. At this moment, the others finally remembered. Not only did Duan Lingtian obtain a profundity fragment from Emperor Wu's secret treasure, but he had also gotten himself into a huge disaster that could be considered as a catastrophe to the third-rate forces that they were in. Duan Lingtian had killed the 2 most outstanding young disciples of the second-rate force in the northern desert, Izumo Sect. The 2 young disciples of Izumo Sect were undoubtedly the future pillars of the sect. However, they were killed by Duan Lingtian. How could Izumo Sect not be angry? Yes. In the face of Guichong's question, Duan Lingtian nodded and did not deny it. Back then, when he admitted that he had killed Lei Jun and Lei Zhong, every young powerhouse present on the scene saw it clearly. Duan Lingtian, why don't you reconsider? Who knows, we might be able to come up with another solution. Guichong said with a frown. He knew that he could not just let go of a person who had obtained a profundity fragment for the sect and made a great contribution to the sect. I have an idea. Qi Feng, who was standing by the side, replied calmly. Just when everyone's gaze landed on Qi Feng, Duan Lingtian said with a determined expression, Sect Leader, Peak Master. I've made up my mind. Let this matter come to an end. Chapter 1007. After all, it was impossible for him to stay in the Five Element Sect forever. When he first joined the Five Element Sect, it was more for the sake of coming to Emperor Wu's secret treasure and reuniting with Feng Tianwu, Su Li and Zhang Shouyong. There was no other reason. Now that he had achieved his goal, there was no need for him to continue staying in the Five Element Sect. The incident this time happened to be an opportunity for him to leave. Everyone has their own ambitions. Qi was about to continue speaking when he heard Duan Lingtian's words and saw the resolute expression on his face. A gleam flashed across his eyes as he nodded his head. He respected Duan Lingtian's decision. Since you insist on leaving, it's useless for us to persuade you to stay. However, you must remember one thing. You, Duan Lingtian, will always be a disciple of our Five Element Sect. The door of the Five Element Sect will always be open for you. Guichong said to Duan Lingtian in a serious manner. His words were sincere and came from the bottom of his heart. Thank you, Sect Leader. Upon hearing Guichong's words, Duan Lingtian quickly expressed his gratitude. At the same time, he looked at Chiyu and said through voice transmission, Peak Master, I won't be returning to the Five Element Sect with all of you this time. I'll have to trouble you to take care of Yi Xian. If it's possible, I'd like to ask Peak Master to take Yi Xian as your direct disciple. Of course, it's not for my sake. It's for the sake of Yi Xian's innate talent and comprehension ability. I believe Peak Master will never let a bright pearl be covered in dust. Since he was already prepared to leave the Five Elements sect, Duan Lingtian would, naturally, have to make the necessary arrangements. Yi Xian was the one who followed him to the Five Elements sects would peak. This time he left without saying goodbye. No matter what, he wanted to give her an explanation. At the very least, he wanted her to have a backer in the Five Elements sect so she would not be bullied. Naturally, he believed that as long as Yi Xian was given time, Yi Xian would definitely become the rising star of the Five Elements sect. She would stand out among the group of young disciples in the Five Elements sect. As long as she's as outstanding as you said, I'll consider it. Qiyu's reply was simple and straightforward. Thank you, Peak Master. Duan Lingtian heaved a sigh of relief when he got Qiyu's agreement. As for Yi Xian's talent and perception, he was still very confident. Then Duan Lingtian looked at Huang Daniu, who had an ugly expression on his face, and his eyes were filled with reluctance. He smiled and said, Daniu, all good things must come to an end. You don't have to be like this. When you go back this time, remember to say goodbye to Xiao Xian on my behalf. Tell her that I'll visit her when I'm free. Huang Daniu nodded. I'll take good care of Xiao Xian. I won't let anyone bully her. Duan Lingtian did not pay much attention to Huang Daniu's words. This was because he knew that with Yi Xian's innate talent and comprehension ability, she would definitely be taken as a direct disciple by Qiyu, the Peak Master of Wood Peak. Once Yi Xian became Qiyu's disciple, she would become his personal disciple. Who in the Five Elements sect would dare to provoke her? The current Qiyu was different from the previous Qiyu. Ever since Qiyu displayed his strength that was at the peak of the void, his position in the Five Elements sect was destined to rise as well. He would be able to catch up to the sect leader, Guochong. Then, before Duan Lingtian left, he bade farewell to Yu Fang, the Peak Master of Water Peak, and Tiangu, the Peak Master of Earth Peak. As for Cha Bai, the Peak Master of Fire Peak, he was completely ignored by him. Duan Lingtian. Cha Bai held it in for a long time. In the end, he could not help but blurt out in a deep voice, You're a great contributor to our Five Elements sect. Cha Bai, admit that. However, why did you kill my direct disciple, Hu Fei? After leaving the Five Elements sect this time, I don't think Hu Fei took the initiative to provoke you again, did he? It was apparent that Cha Bai had learned from some of the Five Elements sect's disciples that his direct disciple, Hu Fei, was killed by Duan Lingtian. Now he was denouncing Duan Lingtian for his crime. However, Duan Lingtian ignored him as though he did not hear Cha Bai's words at all. He did not bother to explain. Hu Fei did not take the initiative to provoke him again? Just the thought of it made him feel like laughing. Before entering Emperor Wu's secret treasure, Hu Fei even sent a message to Qin Feng, the sect leader of Sun Moon sect, through voice transmission. He told Qin Feng that his strength was far more powerful than Lu Kai, the Sun Moon sect's disciple, and asked Qin Feng not to agree to his bet. It was fortunate that Qin Feng did not believe his words. Otherwise, the two 9th-level concept fragments in Qin Feng's hands would definitely not belong to him. It was precisely because of this matter that he directly killed Hu Fei not long after he entered Emperor Wu's secret treasure. In his opinion, if Hu Fei did not die, he would be a great disaster sooner or later. Zishang was undoubtedly a good example. He did not wish for a second Zishang to appear. Of course, it was not because he was afraid. It was just that he did not want to waste so much time and energy to deal with those conspiracies and tricks in the dark. When Cha Bai saw that Duan Lingtian had completely ignored him, his face turned even gloomier. Although he had already decided not to incur any more enmity with Duan Lingtian, that was before Duan Lingtian killed his direct disciple, Hu Fei. The moment he found out that Hu Fei was killed by Duan Lingtian, the scruples he had toward Duan Lingtian in his heart had completely vanished. He could not wait to kill Duan Lingtian with his own hands to avenge Hu Fei. In his entire life he only had one direct disciple, and he even regarded him as his successor. However, right now, his direct disciple, his successor, had been destroyed by Duan Lingtian. Sect leader. Cha Bai took a deep breath and looked at Guochong with his bloodshot eyes. He wanted Guochong, the sect leader of Five Elements sect, to seek justice for his direct disciple, Hu Fei. However, when he saw that Guochong had no intention of paying any attention to him, he knew that Guochong did not intend to interfere in this matter at all. When he thought about it, it made sense as well. No matter what, Duan Lingtian had still obtained a profundity fragment for the Five Elements sect. He was a great contributor to the Five Elements sect. In front of the profundity fragment, the life of his direct disciple, Hu Fei, was not worth mentioning at all. At once, Cha Bai swallowed the words that he was about to say. His gaze then shifted back to Duan Lingtian. His eyes were filled with coldness and viciousness. Huh. Duan Lingtian immediately noticed the viciousness in Cha Bai's eyes. He could not help but frown as he thought to himself, this Cha Bai is just like his direct disciple, Hu Fei. If I let him live, sooner or later, he'll be a scourge. It's a pity that I can't get rid of him. Indeed. Putting aside the fact that Cha Bai was the peak master of Fire Peak in the Five-Element sect, his strength was terrifying. His current strength was not comparable to Cha Bai's, even if he was stronger than him. Unless Cha Bai had secretly done something that almost killed him, it was impossible for Guochong, the sect leader of Five-Element sect, to just stand by and watch. No matter what, Cha Bai was still the peak master of Fire Peak. In terms of identity, status, and influence, he was not someone that his direct disciple, Hu Fei, could be compared to. At this moment, Feng Qianwu, Su Li, and Zhang Shouyong had already handed over their spatial rings to the Blade Sect's senior officials to check. Although Feng Qianwu had obtained a 9th-level Monarch Stage Fire Profundity Fragment from Emperor Wu's secret treasure, the Profundity Fragment had already merged with her body. Putting aside the fact that the Blade Sect's senior officials could not find out about it, even if they could, it was impossible for them to restore the 9th-level Monarch Stage Profundity Fragment to its original state and use it for their own use. As for Su Li and Zhang Shouyong, they did not obtain the Profundity Fragment at all. After the verification, the Blade Sect's senior officials were a little disappointed. Duan Lingtian, especially the sect leader of Sword Sect. There was a hint of bitterness in his eyes when he looked at Duan Lingtian. It's all because of that Skywolf fort. If it wasn't for them, Duan Lingtian would have been our Blade Sect's disciple long ago. The Profundity Fragment he obtained would have been handed over to Blade Sect instead of the Five-Element Sect. Saber 5, the Vice Sect leader of Blade Sect, gritted his teeth as he looked at the 5 Vice Fort Masters of Skywolf Fort who were standing alone. I curse all 20 of their Skywolf Fort's disciples to be killed. Immediately after, Sword 5 added another sentence. Upon hearing Saber 5's words, not only Feng Qianwu, Su Li, and Zhang Shouyong, but even the group of Blade Sect's disciples who were lucky enough to survive had a strange expression on their faces. One of the 20 Skywolf Fort's disciples had fallen into the bottomless abyss to kill Duan Lingtian. The other 19 disciples had coveted the 4 9th-level concept fragments in Duan Lingtian's hands. They had attacked Duan Lingtian as soon as they entered the Emperor Wu's secret treasure. In the end, all of them were killed instead. Sect leaders, I plan to leave with Brother Lingtian and return to our hometown, the Darkhan Dynasty. Zhang Shouyong took the initiative to tell the 2 sect leaders of Blade Sect. Duan Lingtian had already told him about this matter before it was announced. All right. The 2 sect leaders of Blade Sect nodded in agreement. Initially, with Zhang Shouyong's innate talent and comprehension ability, it was difficult for both of them to take him seriously. However, since Zhang Shouyong and Feng Qianwu entered Blade Sect together, they knew a little about Zhang Shouyong. They knew that Zhang Shouyong came from the Darkhan Dynasty and had a family there. Sect leader, I'll be leaving with elder brother Duan this time as well. At this moment, Feng Qianwu followed up and said. Before she could finish speaking, she looked at the Vice Sect leader of Sword Sect, Jian Shisan. Vice Sect leader, please tell my father that I'll be returning to the Darkhan Dynasty with elder brother Duan. Jian Shisan nodded. The 2 of us old men have no objections to you returning to your hometown. However, we're worried about the 3 of you young people going such a long journey back. The sect leader of Sword Sect frowned. Why don't I ask Shisan to go with all of you? The Shisan that the sect leader of Sword Sect mentioned was naturally Jian Shisan, the vice sect leader of Sword Sect who was also Su Li's master. For Jian Shisan, the vice sect leader of Sword Sect, to personally escort them, it was obvious how important Feng Qianwu was to the sect leader of Sword Sect. Thank you for your kindness, sect leader. However, I think there's no need to trouble vice sect leader. Feng Qianwu rejected the sect leader of Sword Sect's kindness. Before she left Emperor Wu's secret treasure, she had also worried about this when she decided to return to the Darkhan Dynasty with Duan Lingtian. With my current strength, I'll be able to protect all of you on the way back to the Darkhan Dynasty. This was what Duan Lingtian had said to Zhang Shouyong and her at that time. Chapter 1008. Ever since she met Duan Lingtian, Feng Qianwu had always trusted him unconditionally. This time, just like before, she did not doubt Duan Lingtian's words at all. She did not doubt Duan Lingtian's ability at all. In her eyes, her elder brother Duan was the most outstanding man in this world. Nobody could compare to him. Let's go. Duan Lingtian looked at Feng Qianwu and Zhang Shouyong. After bidding farewell to them, he flew away under the watchful eyes of many people present on the scene. The group of people from the Five Elements sect, including the sect leader Guochong, watched as Duan Lingtian left. Duan Lingtian. Qiyu looked at the purple silhouette in the distance and muttered to himself, "I wonder if I'll have the chance to see you again in the future. If I do, how strong would you be now?" Qiyu's eyes were filled with anticipation as he muttered to himself. He believed that if he had the chance to see Duan Lingtian again in this lifetime, Duan Lingtian would definitely give him a big surprise. After witnessing Duan Lingtian's innate talent and comprehension ability, he was very confident in this. "I hope you'll be able to survive." Soon after, Qiyu recalled the conflict between Duan Lingtian and the second-rate force in the northern desert, Izumo sect. His heart clenched slightly before it relaxed again. Duan Lingtian is a rational person. Since he dared to kill Lei Zhong, the strongest person among the younger generation in Izumo sect, he must have a plan in mind. As long as he intentionally hides himself and stays away from the northern desert, Izumo sect might not be able to find him. Qiyu thought to himself. If Qiyu knew that Izumo sect was not the only sect that had their eyes on Duan Lingtian. Even Anika sect and North Nether sect, the two second-rate forces in the northern desert, he would not be so optimistic anymore. Duan Lingtian. Cha Bai, the Peak Master of Fire Peak, watched as Duan Lingtian left. His face was filled with gloom. Deep in his eyes, there was a hint of extreme hatred as though he was about to devour someone. At the same time, Feng Qianwu and Zhang Shouyong caught up with Duan Lingtian and flew away. Soon they disappeared before everyone's eyes. As time passed by, another two figures flew out of Emperor Wu's secret treasure. Its senior brother Chen and senior brother Yi. Some of the Five Element sect's disciples recognized the two immediately. Nangong Chen and Nangong Yi. They were the two direct disciples of the sect's sect leader. Originally, the senior officials of the Skywolf Fort and the Sun Moon sect were looking forward to seeing the two figures flying out of the Martial Emperor's secret treasure before they could see their faces clearly. When they saw their faces, Duan Lingtian and Yi, "What's going on? Why hasn't any of our Skywolf Fort's disciples come out of Emperor Wu's secret treasure yet? Where's Zishang?" The five vice fort masters of Skywolf Fort could no longer maintain their composure. They could vaguely sense that something was amiss. The senior officials from Sun Moon sect, including sect leader Qin Feng, also had a grave expression on their faces. 19 people from Sun Moon sect had gone in, and none of them had come out yet. For a moment they had a bad feeling in their hearts. Those few vice fort masters of Skywolf Fort are still waiting for their Skywolf Fort's disciples to come out? The strange behavior of the five vice fort masters of Skywolf Fort had alerted many disciples from Five Element sect, Blade sect, Empyrean Temple and Emotion-Severing sect. They could not help but have a strange expression on their faces. It seems like they still don't know that all 20 of their disciples who went into Skywolf Fort have been annihilated. As long as none of us take the initiative to tell them, it's not strange that they don't know about it. The disciples from the four major forces whispered among themselves. Their voices were not loud, but it clearly entered the ears of the five vice fort masters of Skywolf Fort, causing their faces to turn pale. All the disciples from Skywolf Fort were annihilated after they entered Emperor Wu's secret treasure? What's going on? The five of them immediately had a grave expression on their faces. Subsequently, after they learned about the ins and outs of the matter from some of the disciples from the four major forces, their faces turned gloomy, and a hint of helplessness could be seen in their eyes. Zishang had failed to kill Duan Lingtian and had fallen into the bottomless abyss. There was no way he could have survived. As for the other 19 people, they had joined forces with the disciples from Sun Moon sect and Emotion-Severing sect to attack Duan Lingtian because they coveted the 9th-level concept fragment in Duan Lingtian's hands. They wanted to kill Duan Lingtian and snatch the treasure. Who would have thought that 48 people would attack Duan Lingtian, and the outcome would be so dramatic? With just one sword strike, Duan Lingtian had annihilated more than half of the disciples from the three major forces. Those who did not die were crippled. With another sword strike, all of them were annihilated. Duan Lingtian. Why is it him? If it was someone else, the five vice fort masters of Skywolf Fort would have chased after him and killed him. However, this person just had to be Duan Lingtian. He was the brother Lingtian that the Little Witch had mentioned. Unless they were able to kill Duan Lingtian flawlessly and without leaving any traces behind. Otherwise, the consequences were not something they could bear. Due to this reason, they could only grit their teeth and swallow their anger even though they were furious. However, even if the 5 vice fort masters of Skywolf Fort could endure it, it did not mean that the senior officials from Sun Moon Sect could. When they heard that 17 of their Sun Moon Sect's disciples had died in Duan Lingtian's hands, horror dawned on their faces. Their eyes gleamed with rage as though they were about to devour someone. Duan Lingtian, how dare you kill my Sun Moon Sect's disciples? I want you dead. Qin Feng bellowed. He was ready to lead the senior officials from Sun Moon Sect to chase after Duan Lingtian and kill him to avenge the 17 disciples of Sun Moon Sect. Sect leader Qin Feng, if you dare to leave. When the 2 most outstanding people from Sun Moon Sect come out, you'll definitely die. A cold voice resonated from Guochong, the sect leader of 5 Element Sect. It was filled with indifference. Those 2 Sun Moon Sect's disciples are the best among the younger generation in Sun Moon Sect. I think it's very likely that they've obtained the Profundity Fragment as well. Chiyu stood by the side and looked at the senior officials from Sun Moon Sect as he added calmly. Chiyu's meaning was very simple. If you dare to chase after Duan Lingtian, when the 2 most outstanding disciples from Sun Moon Sect come out, not only will our 5 Element Sect kill them, but will also take away the Profundity Fragment that they might have obtained. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One must admit that Guochong and Chiyu's threats were very effective. The moment their words left their mouths, all the senior officials from Sun Moon Sect, including Qin Feng, the sect leader of Sun Moon Sect, changed their expressions immediately. At the same time, they glared at Guochong and Chiyu angrily. However, none of them dared to make any move. Although they were furious that 17 disciples from Sun Moon Sect had died, the lives of the 17 disciples from Sun Moon Sect were not worth their lives. However, in their opinion, the lives of the 17 disciples were not as precious as the 2 remaining disciples. The 2 remaining disciples were the pillars of the Sun Moon Sect in the future. Moreover, just like what Chiyu had said, the 2 most outstanding disciples among the younger generation of the Sun Moon Sect might have obtained the Profundity Fragment from the Martial Emperor's secret treasure. Guochong, you win. Qin Feng glared at Guochong and said through gritted teeth. You flatter me, sect leader Qin Feng. Guochong smiled nonchalantly. Seeing how the group of senior officials from Sun Moon Sect did not dare to chase after Duan Lingtian due to Guochong and Chiyu's threats, the corner of Zhang Yan's mouth twitched slightly as he stood nearby. Perhaps he was the only one who knew that the 2 Sun Moon Sect's disciples had died in Emperor Wu's secret treasure. This was because he was the one who had killed them. Of course, he was not stupid enough to tell them the truth. Although he did not think that the emotion-severing sect behind him would be afraid of the Sun Moon Sect, he still did not want to get himself into trouble. He did not want his matter to affect the sect that had nurtured him. Humph? The 5 vice fort masters of Skywolf Fort snorted coldly. Their robes fluttered as they prepared to return to Skywolf Fort. However, as soon as they moved, they were stopped by a figure that resembled a ghost. It was Guochong, the sect leader of 5 Element Sect. Sect leader Guo, what's the meaning of this? Luo Fu, the leader of the 5 vice fort masters of Skywolf Fort, had a grave expression on his face when he saw Guochong stopping them. Vice Fort Master Luo, I don't mean anything. I just want to remind all of you that if any of you dare to make a move on Duan Lingtian, the day I break through to the Martial Monarch stage will be the day Skywolf Fort is annihilated. Guochong's voice was firm and unquestionable. You. Horror dawned on Luo Fu and the other 4 vice fort masters of Skywolf Fort. They knew very well that Guochong was not joking with them. After obtaining the Thunder Profundity Fragment, it would not take long for Guochong to break through to the Martial Monarch stage. When that time came, the 5 Element Sect would be promoted to a new second-rate force in the Northern Desert. Once Guochong broke through to the Martial Monarch stage, even the second-rate force, Izumo Sect, would have to think twice before making a move on the 5 Element Sect. Sect leader Guo, don't worry. We're just returning to Skywolf Fort. We have no intention of making a move on Duan Lingtian. As for those useless disciples of Skywolf Fort, they deserve to die. How dare they kill people and steal their treasures when they're not strong enough? After Luo Fu finished speaking, he no longer bothered with Guochong. He brought the other 4 vice fort masters of Skywolf Fort and flew in the direction of the ancient desert city where Skywolf Fort was located. In fact, even without Guochong's threat, they would not have dared to make a move on Duan Lingtian. Even the fort master of Skywolf Fort was afraid of that little devil. He was even willing to be her mount. One could just imagine how terrifying her background was. Sect leader Qin Feng, I believe you're a smart person as well. At this moment, Guochong looked at Chen Feng, the sect leader of Sun Moon sect. Although his tone was calm, there was a hint of threat and killing intent in it. The moment Chen Feng heard this, horror dawned on his face. However, he did not dare to voice out his anger. Duan Lingtian, who had left long ago, naturally did not know what had happened outside entrance number 2 of Emperor Wu's secret treasure. Big brother Zhang, perhaps. I can help sister-in-law repair her dantian when we return this time. Duan Lingtian looked at Zhang Shouyong, who was walking side by side, and said with a smile. Boom. Duan Lingtian's words were like a bolt from the blue. It made Zhang Shouyong's face turn pale, and his body suddenly came to a halt in the air. Brother Lingtian, you're telling the truth. Chapter 1009. Of course it's true. Duan Lingtian smiled faintly. With a raise of his hand, he took out the immortal spirit herb he had obtained from Emperor Wu's secret treasure. He casually plucked a leaf from the immortal spirit herb and handed it to Zhang Shouyong. This is. Zhang Shouyong had a puzzled expression on his face as he looked at the strange leaf that Duan Lingtian handed over to him. Although he had thought of the possibility that this leaf could be used to help his wife, Wang Qiong, repair her dantian, he still found it hard to believe. This was because this was just too unbelievable. One of the 3 leaves on a strange herb could help his wife repair her dantian? Was this even possible? This is the item that can help sister-in-law repair her dantian. Duan Lingtian smiled as he said, Big brother Zhang, don't underestimate this leaf. Just this leaf alone has the ability to bring a dead person back to life and regrow flesh and bones. Even a person with a crippled body can regrow his limbs if he consumes this leaf. What? Duan Lingtian's words caused Zhang Shouyong's expression to change. When he looked at the blade of grass in his hand again, his eyes were filled with traces of shock and disbelief. This leaf could bring a dead person back to life and regrow flesh and bones? A person with a crippled body could regrow his limbs if he consumes it? At this moment, even Feng Qianwu, who was standing on the other side of Duan Lingtian and had stopped moving together with Duan Lingtian, was shocked. Her beautiful face could not help but change. In her eyes, her elder brother Duan had always been a person who could create miracles. However, when she heard that the leaf in Zhang Shouyong's hand had such a terrifying medicinal effect, she could not help but be shocked. Brother Lingtian, what kind of herb is this? Zhang Shouyong's breathing quickened, and his chest rose and fell continuously like a bellows. After a while, he finally regained his senses and looked at Duan Lingtian with a burning gaze as he asked. Zhang Shouyong firmly believed Duan Lingtian's words. But he still couldn't help but be shocked. What kind of medicinal herb could actually have such a powerful and terrifying medicinal effect? It's called the immortal spirit herb. It's considered a legendary existence in the entire Cloud continent. I didn't expect to encounter it in Qingfeng Palace. Duan Lingtian said with a smile. Immortal spirit grass? When Zhang Shouyong and Feng Qianwu heard this, their eyes brightened. Just by hearing the name of this medicinal herb, one could tell that this was no ordinary medicinal herb. The legendary medicinal herb was actually obtained by you. Your luck is simply heaven-defying. Zhang Shouyong could not help but sigh. At this moment, the depths of Zhang Shouyong's eyes were filled with traces of excitement. His wife, Wang Qiong, had been unable to cultivate all these years because of her dantian, and it had already become a sore point for him. But now, his wife had the opportunity to repair her dantian and could officially begin cultivating. This made him feel excited from the bottom of his heart. The heart disease that had plagued him for so many years could finally be removed. Brother Lingtian, thank you. Zhang Shouyong thanked Duan Lingtian sincerely. He was grateful from the bottom of his heart that Duan Lingtian was willing to share such a precious medicinal herb with him. Big brother Zhang, is there a need to be so courteous between us? If it wasn't for your help in the ancient city of Everlast in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, I would have died long ago, let alone today. Duan Lingtian shook his head and said, Brother Lingtian, that's all in the past. To me it's only a slight effort and it's not worth mentioning. Zhang Shouyong said. Big brother Zhang. Perhaps it's not worth mentioning in your eyes. But in my eyes you saved my life. Even a drop of water needs to be repaid with a gushing spring, let alone a life-saving grace? Duan Lingtian said with a serious expression. If it wasn't for Zhang Shouyong's help in saving his life that year, he would have been killed long ago, let alone his current achievements. Alright, let's not talk about this anymore. Zhang Shouyong changed the topic when he saw Duan Lingtian was serious. Brother Lingtian, Are you going to help Xiong Quan repair his Dantian with the immortal spirit herb when you return to the Dark Han dynasty? Xiong Quan was the middle-aged man who followed Duan Lingtian all those years ago. Zhang Shouyong had a deep impression of him. That year, Xiong Quan's Dantian was crippled in the Eternal Jade restaurant that they opened. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. His eyes gleamed. That year, his Dantian was crippled because of me. That's my responsibility. This time, I can help him repair his Dantian and give him an explanation. He still felt guilty toward Xiong Quan. Brother Lingtian, don't think too much. I could tell that Xiong Quan didn't blame you that year. Moreover, Xiong Quan is open-minded. Although he lost his origin energy, he must have lived well all these years. Zhang Shouyong comforted him. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. He hoped that was the case as well. With a lift of his hand, Duan Lingtian kept the immortal spirit herb in his spatial ring. The immortal spirit herb in his hand originally had 3 leaves. After giving one to Zhang Shouyong, there were only 2 left. After Zhang Shouyong kept the immortal spirit herb's leaf in his spatial ring as though he had obtained a precious treasure, Duan Lingtian and the other 2 continued to make their way to the Dark Han dynasty at an extremely fast speed. Brother Lingtian, which level of Qingfeng Palace did you obtain the immortal spirit herb? Zhang Shouyong asked curiously along the way. He was very curious about where Duan Lingtian obtained the legendary immortal spirit herb. When Feng Qianwu heard this, she also looked at Duan Lingtian curiously. The first level. Duan Lingtian said, when I arrived at the first level, I appeared at the back of a long corridor. Along the way I could enter many stone rooms. However, as soon as I entered, the statues outside would attack me. Once you left the stone room, the statues would return to their original positions and no longer attack. Duan Lingtian learned about this from Huang Dainiu. On the first level of Qingfeng Palace, every time he entered a stone room, he would destroy the statues that attacked him without exception. Therefore, he did not know that the statues would return to their original positions after he left the stone room. That's the same. Zhang Shouyong said. Feng Qianwu nodded as well. Her experience was similar. I obtained the immortal spirit herb at the end of the long corridor on the first level of Qingfeng Palace in the central stone room that leads to the second level. As long as you're strong enough to suppress the other 3 young powerhouses that were assigned to you, you'll be able to enter and ascend to the second level of Qingfeng Palace. Duan Lingtian said. He still remembered that the stone room was called the 4-entry 1 stone room. I didn't enter that room. I was assigned to a North Nether sect's disciple. Zhang Shouyong smiled wryly. His innate talent and strength might be considered good in a third-rate force. However, if he was placed in a second-rate force like the North Nether sect, he would only be considered ordinary. On the other hand, the North Nether sect's disciples who entered Emperor Wu's secret treasure were all elites among the younger generation in the North Nether sect. They were far from what he could compare to. I entered the stone chamber. However, I didn't see any immortal spirit herbs. What I obtained was a grade 1 spirit weapon that could increase my strength by 89%. Duan Lingtian said. Feng Qianwu said. A grade 1 spirit weapon with an 89% amplification could be considered as the best grade 1 spirit weapon. It was only slightly inferior to the grade 1 spirit weapon that Duan Lingtian could refine. Duan Lingtian was not surprised when he heard Feng Qianwu's words. No matter what, the immortal spirit herb was still a legendary herb. It was impossible for it to appear in every 4-entry 1 stone room. He had already guessed this. It was all because of his luck that he was able to obtain the immortal spirit herb. Tianwu, what did you experience when you went up to the second level? Duan Lingtian asked again. Soon after, Duan Lingtian learned about Feng Qianwu's experience in Qingfeng Palace. The only thing missing was the giant wooden figure on the second level. Or perhaps, the second level that Feng Qianwu was at did not have the strange stone platform that was inscribed with a mysterious inscription formation that could be combined with the broken wood in the long corridor to form a giant wooden figure. It seems like the immortal spirit herb. That strange stone platform is unique as well. Of course, it's also possible that Tianwu didn't activate the inscription formation in the stone platform on the second level that she went through. Duan Lingtian's heart jolted as he speculated to himself. As for the rest, it's more or less the same. In the bumpy road on the 4th level, Tianwu could only retreat in the face of the earth energy that was equivalent to the strength of 1,500 ancient horned dragons because she did not forcefully activate the fire profundity. Everything was similar to what he had guessed. When Duan Lingtian and the other 2 continued to make their way to the Dark Han dynasty. Boom, 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 boom. In a remote mountain range in the Dark Han dynasty, A series of loud noises suddenly resonated from a dark cave. The mountain range began to shake violently as though the ground was shaking. After the cave shook, an old man with black mist exuding from his body rushed out of the cave. The old man had a pair of blood-red eyes that did not contain any emotions. All of a sudden, the old man raised his hands and held his head tightly. At the same time he bent down and cried out in pain. The old man's voice was heart-wrenching as though he was going through some kind of torture. I'm Zhao Ming. I'm Zhao Ming. Yes, I'm Zhao Ming. 7-Star Sword Sect. Azure Forest Trisect. Duan Ling Tian. Yes, I'm Duan Ling Tian. He's my enemy. He's my enemy. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him. Finally the old man stopped screaming. His body straightened up again. His blood-red eyes were filled with killing intent as he looked at his surroundings in a daze. Where's this place? The old man frowned as he tried to recall. However, he realized he could not remember anything at all. Duan Ling Tian. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. Soon, the old man stopped thinking about it and roared hysterically with a sullen face. Chapter 10:10. At the same time that the old man roared, the black mist around his body began to churn and boil like boiling water. For a time, the airflow in the surrounding air was completely compressed together, setting off a series of thunderous air explosions. Not only that, but at the same time as the explosion, waves of invisible air waves swept out, turning into a vast gale that blew in all directions. At once, with the old man as the center, the vegetation in the nearby mountain forest began to sway. The birds that were originally resting on the trees were startled and flew up into the sky before disappearing. Whoosh! Without anyone noticing, a black figure appeared in the sky above the mountain range. This semi-finished product seems to be not bad. However, he has an obsession with hatred in his heart. It's still not enough to completely control him, the black figure muttered to himself. The owner of the black figure muttered in a low voice, seemingly dissatisfied. Now, I can only let him take his revenge. As long as he takes his revenge, his obsession will naturally disappear. At that time, I'll be able to completely suppress his will and turn him into a real walking corpse. Then, I'll be able to completely control him. However, with his current state, he'll be awake from time to time. I'm afraid it'll take some time to find his enemy. Whoosh! The black figure appeared out of thin air and disappeared into thin air as though he had never appeared before. At the same time, in the mountain range below, the old man Zhao Ming, who was standing in the air, was completely stunned. At this moment he raised his head and looked at the sky above him. His face was filled with shock and his eyes were filled with disbelief. How's this possible? In the sky, after the heaven and earth energy stirred, it gathered into the heaven and earth phenomenon. Silhouettes of ancient horned dragons appeared one after another. They descended majestically and appeared in front of Zhao Ming's eyes. It was a great shock to Zhao Ming. At a glance, the heaven and earth phenomenon in front of him had at least 7,000 to 8,000 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons. The strength of 7,000 to 8,000 ancient horned dragons. Is this my strength? At this moment, Zhao Ming felt the majestic strength in his body. His eyes were filled with shock and at the same time, he could not help but be pleasantly surprised. The strength he possessed now was a few hundred times stronger than before. No, my strength doesn't seem to be origin energy anymore? Moreover, I seem to be unable to communicate with the concept. What the hell is going on? Very quickly, as Zhao Ming raised his hand, a wave of energy that was as black as ink appeared in his hand. The black energy continuously surged, and strands of black aura flickered in the surroundings. This power isn't origin energy or concept, but it seems to be even stronger than origin energy and concept combined. What kind of power is that? As Zhao Ming muttered to himself, he casually raised his hand and struck out with his palm. Suddenly, the ink-black power in his hand turned into a huge palm that was surrounded by black fog. It whizzed out and disappeared in front of his eyes. Boom! A loud bang was heard and crushed stones flew everywhere. Zhao Ming's palm had blasted a bottomless pit in the nearby mountain wall. Even Zhao Ming was shocked by the power of his palm. He stared at his palm in a daze for a long time. This is my power? Is this still me? Zhao Ming was stunned. He was completely stunned. No. I remember that I seemed to have been crippled by that Duan Ling Tian. My 4 limbs were also crippled by him. What the hell is going on? Zhao Ming's eyes were filled with confusion. He kept shaking his head. He could not figure it out. Could it be that all this is just a dream? If it's a dream, why is it so real? Moreover, why am I here? Why do I have such a strange power? Zhao Ming was puzzled. At the same time he began to recall. Very quickly, perhaps it was because he was recalling, a piercing pain came from the depths of Zhao Ming's mind, causing him to scream hysterically again. After a while the scream stopped. Zhao Ming's scarlet eyes dimmed completely at this moment, as if they had lost their luster. At this moment, Zhao Ming seemed to have changed into another person. His entire body was emitting an extremely cold aura, and his eyes were lifeless. He was like a walking corpse. Whoosh! Zhao Ming's figure flashed and flew out of the remote mountain range. He wandered without any direction. At the same time, it seemed like he did not have a destination. Outside the Darkhan dynasty's capital, 3 figures flew through the air and stopped in the sky. Brother Ling Tian, Miss Tianwu, are you really not going to return to the Zhang clan's estate with me? Zhang Shouyong looked at the purple-clad young man and red-clad lady before him and asked. The latter was Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu, who returned to the Darkhan dynasty with Zhang Shouyong. Even if they had to take Zhang Shouyong's speed into consideration, Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tianwu still did not spend too much time to return to the Darkhan dynasty. Big brother Zhang, go back and accompany sister-in-law first. As for the 2 of us, you don't have to worry about us. Don't tell me you're worried that we'll encounter danger in the Darkhan dynasty? Duan Ling Tian shook his head and smiled. That's not it. I just feel that Xiong'er's Dantian was repaired with your help. No matter what, the 2 of us have to thank you properly. Zhang Shouyong said seriously. Big brother Zhang, you don't have to be so courteous with me. We'll take our leave first. The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, he had already made his move and left. The red figure that was like a fire elf followed Duan Lingtian like a shadow and disappeared before Zhang Shouyong's eyes together. Zhang Shouyong could not help but shake his head and smile wryly. Brother Ling Tian and Miss Tianwu are a perfect match. They're both so energetic. Zhang Shouyong shook his head and smiled before he turned around and flew towards the sky above the capital. He only descended when he arrived above a spacious estate. His movements were as smooth as flowing water. Zhang clan's estate. After Zhang Shouyong landed, he ignored the shocked gazes of the surrounding servant girls and charged into a large courtyard with an excited expression on his face. This was the place where he and his wife Wang Qiong used to live. On the other side, elder brother Duan, are you going to look for Xiong Quan? Feng Tianwu followed by Duan Lingtian's side and asked curiously. There's no rush for Xiong Quan. Let's go according to the principle of nearest. We'll make a trip to Clarity City first. Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed as he spoke. Clarity City? Feng Tianwu nodded. Although she did not know why Duan Lingtian was going there, she was sensible enough to not ask. Because she knew that Duan Lingtian surely had a reason for going there. Just as Feng Tianwu thought, Duan Lingtian did indeed have a reason for going there. He went to Clarity City only to look for one person. Huli. This name was slightly distant even to the current Duan Lingtian. But he would never be able to forget this name. He still remembered that not long after he entered the 7-Star Sword sect, he entered the primeval forest behind the 7-Star Sword sect to test his quake energy, and he just happened to encounter a small team formed by 7-Star Sword sect disciples. The small team had a total of 3 people. Huli Shirlan and Xiao Fei. Xiao Fei was a vicious person. He tried to harm him many times in the primeval forest, but he did not succeed. In the end he was heavily injured and almost killed by him. However, due to Huli and Shirlan's pleading, Xiao Fei was spared. However, all of that was only the beginning of a disaster. After that, Xiao Fei asked his brother to help him take revenge. He forced Shirlan to fall off the cliff and crippled Huli's leg. After that, although he killed Xiao Fei and his brother to take revenge for Shirlan and Huli, it was impossible to save Shirlan's life. It was the same for Huli's leg. However, now that he had obtained the immortal spirit herb, he could heal Huli's leg. He still remembered that after Huli left, he had asked someone to tell him that his family was at the Hu clan in Clarity City. Clarity City was a city that was neither big nor small. After asking for directions, Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu arrived at this unfamiliar city. To the 2 of them who had left the Darkhan dynasty and gone to the foreign lands to see the world, Clarity City could only be considered as a small city that could not be any smaller. After arriving at Clarity City, Duan Lingtian asked for the location of the Hu clan and brought Feng Tianwu along. Huli? You're talking about young Master Li, right? What a coincidence. A few months ago, after young Master Li found out that the 7-Star Sword sect had been rebuilt, He returned to the Seven-Star Sword Sect and said he wanted to do something for the Seven-Star Sword Sect. At the entrance of the Hu clan estate, Duan Lingtian found out about Hu Li's whereabouts from a Hu clan disciple. He did not expect Hu Li to return to the Seven-Star Sword Sect. Since the two of you know young Master Li, could it be that you're his friends? The Hu clan disciple asked. Exactly. Duan Lingtian nodded. Since the two of you are young Master Li's friends, you can rest in our Hu clan estate for a few days. Once I report to the Patriarch will definitely send someone to the Seven-Star Sword Sect to inform young Master Li. The Hu clan disciple said again. There's no need. We'll go to the Seven-Star Sword Sect to look for him ourselves. Duan Lingtian shook his head and left Clarity City with Feng Qianwu to the Seven-Star Sword Sect. When he arrived at the Seven-Star Sword Sect, everything before his eyes surprised Duan Lingtian. Compared to when he left the last time, the Seven-Star Sword Sect had undergone tremendous changes. Everything seemed to have returned to its former prosperity. That kid Mou did really well. Duan Lingtian could not help but praise in his heart when he saw the scene before his eyes. This time, Duan Lingtian did not disturb the others when he returned. After bidding farewell to Feng Qianwu, he changed into the inner court disciple's uniform that he wore in the Seven-Star Sword Sect before entering the main peak of the Seven-Star Sword Sect, Dubhe Peak. Senior brother, do you know where Senior Brother Power of Hu is? After entering Dubhe Peak, Duan Lingtian asked an inner court disciple around the age of 30. You just entered our Seven-Star Sword Sect, right? Chapter 10-11. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded his head when faced with the question of the Seven-Star Sword Sect inner court disciple before him. No wonder. Senior Brother Hu Li is usually in Fekta Hall, and he's now the substitute peak master of our Seven-Star Sword Sect's Fekta Peak. The inner court disciple said. Fekta Peak, substitute peak master? Duan Lingtian couldn't help but be stunned. This was something that he'd never imagined. To be able to become the substitute peak master of Fekta Peak. Hu Li's current strength is probably at the void initiation stage or above, right? Duan Lingtian was secretly shocked in his heart and felt that it was slightly unbelievable. He knew of Hu Li's natural talent. Although it wasn't bad, it was still quite difficult for him to break through to the void initiation stage in these few years. Perhaps Hu Li has experienced some fortuitous encounters in these few years. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Filled with curiosity, Duan Lingtian arrived near Fekta Hall, and he could vaguely see many Seven-Star Sword Sect inner court disciples standing there and looking towards Fekta Hall from afar. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. When Duan Lingtian approached Fekta Peak, he could vaguely hear a wave of ear-piercing howls of the wind, and it was a swift figure that was constantly changing its figure. Senior Brother Hu Li is really formidable. Nonsense. If he wasn't formidable, how could he be the substitute peak master of our Seven-Star Sword Sect's Fekta Peak? I heard that Senior Brother Hu Li's leg was crippled by someone in our Seven-Star Sword Sect. There's such a thing? Yeah. That year, Senior Brother Hu Li's leg was crippled by someone in our Seven-Star Sword Sect, and it was Senior Brother Duan Lingtian who personally took revenge for him. I found out about this from some senior brothers and senior sisters. What? Senior Brother Duan Lingtian? The figure in the rumors of our Seven-Star Sword Sect? He's not even 30 years old, but is already the #1 expert in our Seven-Star Sword Sect? The group of Seven-Star Sword Sect inner court disciples that stood near Fekta Hall discussed animatedly. Initially, the topic of their discussion was power of Hu, but in the end it shifted to Duan Lingtian. Their words were filled with admiration for Duan Lingtian. If they knew that the person they were talking about was not far away from them, who knew what they would think? Duan Lingtian naturally paid no attention to the discussion of these Seven-Star Sword Sect inner court disciples. His gaze landed on the swift figure outside Fekta Hall. This figure gave him a familiar feeling as if he had met him before. It was a young man in his early 30s with a determined face. Although many years had passed, Duan Lingtian could still see a familiar outline in his face. With just a glance he recognized the young man. Power of Hu. Although one of Power of Hu's legs was crippled, his speed was not slower than a healthy person when he used his other leg to move. In fact, it was even faster than a healthy person. Suddenly, in Duan Lingtian's field of vision, Power of Hu accelerated abruptly as if he had transformed into a bolt of lightning. Whoosh! Power of Hu's entire body tilted as his remaining leg fell down. Just as he was about to fall to the ground, he moved. Bang! Bang! Power of Hu's arms that contained skyrocketing origin energy and strands of green energy slammed onto the ground violently, causing two ear-piercing loud bangs. In the next moment, Power of Hu borrowed the force of the impact and shot out like an arrow that was shot out from a bow toward the mountain wall at the side. Bang! A loud bang reverberated in the air. It was Power of Hu's remaining leg that was shot out like a cannonball. The origin energy that was entwined with purple energy slammed onto the mountain wall violently. For a time, densely packed cracks appeared with the place where his leg landed as the center. The cracks spread in all directions like a giant spider web. In the sky, the surging heaven and earth energy finally converged into the heaven and earth phenomenon. 10 lifelike ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared and wriggled down. 4th level void initiation stage? 4th level elementary wind concept? Duanling Tian was greatly surprised when he saw this scene. Although he had guessed that Power of Hu's cultivation might have broken through to the void initiation stage on the way here, he was still surprised. When he really witnessed Power of Hu's cultivation, he still could not help but be surprised. Soon after, Power of Hu returned to Fekta Hall. Although his slightly robust body was only supported by a single leg, it seemed as steady as Mount Tai. Duanling Tian raised his brows and walked towards Power of Hu with large strides. For a time, the surrounding 7-star sword sect inner court disciples were dumbstruck as they stared blankly at Duanling Tian's figure that was disappearing into the distance. What's this fellow trying to do? Could it be that this fellow doesn't know that senior brother Power of Hu hates it when people disturb him when he's cultivating? Many 7-star sword sect inner court disciples looked at each other. They thought that Duanling Tian was just a hothead who wanted to seek advice from Power of Hu. A mocking expression appeared on their faces at the same time. It was as if they could already see the scene of him being reprimanded by Power of Hu. However, the mocking expression on their faces quickly vanished and was replaced by disbelief. They saw it clearly. When Power of Hu in the distance saw this inner court disciple, he actually had an excited expression. Soon after, Power of Hu nodded without any reason. After glancing at the direction they were at, he walked into Fekta Hall with the inner court disciple and disappeared before their eyes. Who's that person? I wonder. There's such a person among our 7-star sword sect's inner court disciples? Senior brother Power of Hu seemed to be very excited when he saw him. Could it be that he's some relative of senior brother Power of Hu? It's possible. The group of 7-star sword sect inner court disciples could not help but guess. 2 figures had just entered Fekta Hall. Ah, Duanling Tian, long time no see. Power of Hu immediately gave Duanling Tian a bear hug. His face was filled with excitement. Duanling Tian returned the bear hug with a bright smile on his face. Yes, we haven't seen each other for many years. Although we haven't seen each other for many years, your name has already spread throughout the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. No, it should be said that it has spread throughout the entire Darkhan dynasty. Power of Hu said with a smile. It was obvious that he knew that Duanling Tian had won first place in the Darkhan dynasty's martial competition and became the strongest person among the younger generation of the Darkhan dynasty. You're quite well informed. Duanling Tian shook his head and smiled. I originally thought that I'd be able to catch up to you after cultivating wholeheartedly at home all these years. In the end, I realized that I can't compare to you at all. Everything you do can be said to be earth-shattering. Power of Hu sighed. In the past, he'd always taken Duanling Tian as his goal, and he'd cultivated bitterly to obtain his current accomplishments. But who would have thought that when he thought he could catch up to Duanling Tian, shocking news had spread to Clarity City, spread to the Hu clan and spread to his ears. Duanling Tian had used his own strength to suppress the higher-ups of the Azure Forest Trisect and take revenge for the 7-star sword sect. After that, he'd even assisted the new sect leader of the 7-star sword sect, MOU, to rebuild the 7-star sword sect. All those years ago when I found out about the news of the 7-star sword sect being annihilated, I'd inquired about you many times, but I didn't find anything. But I never imagined that you'd give me such a great surprise without anyone noticing. Power of Hu sighed with emotion. After I found out that you'd annihilated the Azure Forest Trisect and rebuilt the 7-star sword sect, I returned to the sect with the hope that I could do something for the sect within my ability. But unfortunately you'd already left when I returned. As he finished speaking, Power of Hu laughed heartily. But it's not too late for you to return now. Today I'll have to get drunk with you. There's no hurry. Duanling Tian shook his head and then he said, I returned to the 7-star sword sect mainly to look for you. As Duanling Tian spoke, he looked at Power of Hu's severed leg. To look for me? Power of Hu was stunned. How did you know I was here? Could it be that you went to Clarity City? Exactly. Duan Lingtian nodded. I went to your Hu clan and found out that you'd returned to the Seven-Star Sword sect, so I directly rushed over. This time I only came to look for you and I didn't intend to alarm anyone else. No wonder you didn't allow me to call out your name in public earlier. Power of Hu came to a sudden understanding. Power of Hu, take this. With a raise of his hand, a medicinal herb that flickered with a green light appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand, and he casually plucked a piece and passed it to Power of Hu. This is? It was Power of Hu's first time seeing a green herb that glowed. He could not help but stare at it in shock. Although he did not recognize what it was, his intuition told him that it was not an ordinary herb. This is a medicinal herb that can regrow your severed leg. Duan Lingtian smiled. Duan Lingtian spoke casually, but when his words entered Power of Hu's ears, it was like a clap of thunder. He would not rest until he was shocked to death. This blade of grass can help me regrow my legs? Power of Hu's face was filled with shock. Although he did not doubt Duan Lingtian's words, he still felt that it was a little unbelievable. Give it a try. First, remove the scar on your leg and consume this immortal spirit herb. Then you'll know that I'm not lying. Duan Lingtian, naturally, saw the disbelief on Power of Hu's face, so he continued to speak. Power of Hu took a deep breath and suppressed his inexplicable excitement. With a raise of his hand, the origin energy that was intertwined with green energy transformed into a saber and directly cut off the scar on his severed leg. At the same time that fresh blood spurted out, Power of Hu, who was sweating profusely on his forehead, groaned in pain. Then he stuffed the herb that flickered with a green light into his mouth, chewed a few times and swallowed it. A moment later, wisps of green light appeared on Power of Hu's body for no reason. The green light twined around his body as if it had a life of its own. Immediately after, the green light on his body began to converge on his severed leg, completely condensing at the wound on his severed leg. How does it feel? Seeing this, Duan Lingtian asked. It's a little itchy. As the green light converged at the wound on his severed leg, Power of Hu felt the pain gradually disappear. However, he felt waves of numbness and itchiness coming from the wound on his leg. Chapter 10-12. Although Duan Lingtian knew about the heaven-defying effects of the immortal spirit herb, he only knew about it from the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu. Even the reincarnation Emperor Wu had never seen the real immortal spirit herb, let alone its heaven-defying effects. His knowledge was limited to the legends. Suddenly, a crisp sound entered Duan Lingtian's ears and attracted Duan Lingtian's attention. At the same time, Duan Lingtian was shocked to discover that at the spot where the green light gathered on Power of Hu's broken leg, bones, flesh and skin were rapidly growing. Under the green light, the bones, flesh and skin that appeared out of thin air were no different from Power of Hu's original body. Power of Hu was stunned, completely stunned. Heavens! His leg was actually growing. His legs were not saplings or saplings. They were the flesh, bones and skin of a living person, and they were growing rapidly before his eyes. First his thigh grew out. Then his knee. Behind his knee was his calf. After his calf had completely grown out, the green light dimmed slightly, and the speed of his foot's growth slowed down. Power of Hu could not help but hold his breath when he saw this. He was really worried that the green light would disappear. At this moment, he could vaguely sense that the green light that gathered on his broken leg was the immortal spirit herb's effect. Once it disappeared, his broken leg would stop growing. This is amazing. In less than half an hour, Duan Lingtian witnessed a miracle with his own eyes. A miracle of regrowing a broken leg. Duan Lingtian's breathing quickened when he saw Power of Hu's foot growing out. According to the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu, even the royal grade resurrection pill that he refined when he was still in his prime has limitations, even though it's said to be able to revive the dead and regrow flesh and bones. First of all, the royal grade resurrection pill is for those who are pretending to be dead. It's impossible for the royal grade resurrection pill to revive a person who has no vitality at all. Secondly, the regrow flesh and bones is for those who are missing a piece of flesh or skin due to an injury. If it's a broken leg like Power of Hu's, it's difficult to regrow it. Although the royal grade resurrection pill was the best healing pill on Cloud Continent in the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu, it did not have the effect of regrowing a broken bone. However, the immortal spirit pill could regrow a broken bone. At this moment, Duan Lingtian witnessed all of this with his own eyes. Reincarnation Emperor Wu had many regrets after experiencing 2 reincarnations. Not being able to see the legendary immortal spirit herb was one of his regrets. Not being able to experience the effects of the legendary immortal spirit grass is one of his biggest regrets. Duan Lingtian's heart jolted. Since he had merged with the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu, he knew the reincarnation Emperor Wu's regrets like the back of his hand. Wherever the green light passed, the broken bone would regrow flesh and skin. Soon after, Power of Whose foot had completely regrown. At the same time, the crisp sound stopped abruptly, and the green light disappeared as well. Power of Whose new leg was perfectly symmetrical with his other leg. There was no disharmony at all. Naturally, the only flaw was that Power of Whose new leg was too fair. Instead of saying it was fair, it was more appropriate to say it was delicate. The skin on the outside was as fair and smooth as a baby's skin. Ah, Power of Who, the skin on your leg is even fairer than those little girls' legs. Duan Lingtian laughed and teased. Power of Whose face turned red when he heard this, but his eyes were filled with excitement. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Power of Who stomped on the ground and flew across the Qinji Palace at lightning speed. Sometimes he would turn left, sometimes he would turn right. His speed was as fast as lightning. After experimenting for a while, Power of Who discovered something. Compared to the leg that he usually trained, his new leg was even better in terms of strength and explosive power. Ah! I, Power of Who, am no longer a cripple. I, Power of Who, am no longer a cripple. Power of Who laughed heartily after he came to a sudden stop. As he laughed, his eyes were filled with tears of joy. All these years he had been living with determination. In order to surpass Duan Lingtian, he had set an extremely harsh goal for himself. On the surface, he didn't seem to care much about the fact that he had lost a leg. However, how could he not care about it in his heart? If he could, who would be willing to be a crippled person who had lost a leg? Power of Whose frustration over the years had accumulated to its limit. Now that he had vented it out, it could not be contained. It took him a long time to calm down. Seeing Power of Whose new leg, a smile appeared on Duan Lingtian's face. He was happy for Power of Who. Finally, after laughing for a while, Power of Who suppressed the excitement in his heart. Duan Lingtian, thank you. At the same time, he looked at Duan Lingtian and thanked him earnestly. His tone was filled with sincerity. If it were not for Duan Lingtian, he would have been a cripple for the rest of his life. However, Duan Lingtian had turned him back into a normal person. This made him feel emotional from the bottom of his heart. From today onward, he would no longer have to face the strange gazes of others. He, Power of Who, had stood up with dignity. There's no need for thanks between us. Duan Lingtian shook his head. Then he seemed to have recalled something and could not help but sigh. It's a pity for Shirlan. Although the immortal spirit herb in my hand is magical, it can't save Shirlan's life. That year, it's my fault for cooperating with Shirlan to plead mercy for Xiao Fei. Otherwise Shirlan wouldn't have died. When he heard Duan Lingtian's words, a beautiful figure appeared in Power of Whose mind. Unknowingly, tears welled up in his eyes. He was slightly moved. If he had supported Duan Lingtian to kill Xiao Fei back then, the things that happened later might not have happened. Shirlan would not have died and his leg would not have been crippled. All these years, every time he looked at his broken leg, he only had one thought. He had only himself to blame for this. It's all in the past. You don't have to blame yourself. Moreover, who would have thought that Xiao Fei would be so ungrateful and harm both of you who saved his life? Duan Lingtian comforted him. Power of Who nodded. After a while, his emotions gradually stabilized. Duan Lingtian, you're really not going to see the sect leader? The sect leader has always talked about you. After Power of Whose emotions calmed down, he couldn't help but ask Duan Lingtian. The sect leader he spoke of was the current sect leader of the Seven-Star Sword sect, MOU. The outer court disciple who acted as a coachman and had a low status in the Seven-Star Sword sect had unknowingly risen to become the new sect leader of the Seven-Star Sword sect. There's no need. I'll come back if I have time in the future. Duan Lingtian shook his head and left Fekta Hall after bidding farewell to Power of Who. He came in a hurry and left in a hurry. Power of Who followed Duan Lingtian out of Fekta Hall, couldn't help but be shocked when he saw Duan Lingtian's figure vanish into thin air before his eyes. Exactly how strong is Duan Lingtian's current strength? Power of Who gasped, and his eyes were filled with astonishment. Being able to meet a monstrous martial artist like Duan Lingtian in this lifetime of mine, it can be said that my life wasn't in vain. Unknowingly, the astonishment in Power of Whose eyes faded away and was replaced by a flickering bright light. A faint smile faintly appeared on his face. After leaving Fekta Hall, Duan Lingtian wasn't in a hurry to go look for Feng Qianwu. Since I'm already here, I'll go look for Peak Master Qin Xiang and ask her which power Ke and Little Fei are in the foreign lands. Two beautiful figures appeared in Duan Lingtian's mind. They were his two fiancées Ke and Li Fei. That year, Ke and Li Fei followed Qin Xiang and headed to the power in the foreign lands that Qin Xiang's sister was in to celebrate her birthday. Since then, Ke and Li Fei had stayed in the power in the foreign lands and hadn't returned until now. It was naturally impossible for him to not miss those two little girls. Peak Master Qin Xiang. Duan Lingtian didn't hesitate in the slightest to directly head to Arcade Hall and look for Qin Xiang. Qin Xiang just happened to be drinking tea before the pavilion in Arcade Hall, and she couldn't help but be shocked when she saw the unexpected guest before her, yet she heaved a sigh of relief when she saw the appearance of the person that had arrived clearly. But her eyes were filled with slight astonishment. Looks like your strength has improved greatly during this trip to the foreign lands to participate in the martial competition of the 10 dynasties. Qin Xiang looked seriously at Duan Lingtian as she sighed with emotion. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded and then he went straight to the point. Peak Master Qin Xiang, I know what you want to ask. Qin Xiang said frankly, you want to ask me, which power in the foreign lands Ke and Li Fei are in, right? Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded. I'm not afraid you'll laugh at me if I tell you. Even though I've been to the power in the foreign lands that my sister is in, I don't know exactly what power it is. Qin Xiang laughed bitterly. Needless to say, Duan Lingtian had never imagined that Qin Xiang would answer him like this. He felt even more disbelief. Didn't Qin Xiang go to that power in the foreign lands? How could she possibly not know exactly what power that power in the foreign lands was? I indeed don't know exactly what power that power is. The only thing I know is that power stands on a snow peak, and the snow peak is basically filled with white-clothed female disciples, said Qin Xiang. A female sect? Duan Lingtian's brows raised as he asked curiously. Not all of them. Apart from the snow-capped peak, there's also a towering volcano in that faction. When I went to celebrate my sister's birthday that day, people came from that volcano as well, and it was a group of male martial artists in fiery red robes. The volcano and Snow Peak seem to belong to the same power, said Qin Xiang. Snow Peak? Volcano? Duan Lingtian couldn't help but frown when he heard this, and at the same time he searched through the memories of Emperor Wu, yet he came up empty-handed in the end. Chapter 10:13. The second lifetime of reincarnation Emperor Wu was already 10,000 years ago. According to the memories of reincarnation Emperor Wu, there seem to only be two great ancient clans on Cloud Continent that can be passed down for 10,000 years. At the same time that Duan Lingtian searched through the memories of reincarnation Emperor Wu's two lifetimes, he couldn't help but think in his heart. In the memories of reincarnation Emperor Wu, the gap between his first lifetime and second lifetime was similarly 10,000 years. The world had changed in 10,000 years. During his second lifetime, only the two great ancient clans remained from his first lifetime, which was 10,000 years ago, among the numerous forces on Cloud Continent that were passed down from his first lifetime. The other forces that he knew of during his first lifetime had practically been reduced to the dust of history during his second lifetime and ceased to exist. Even if they still existed, they had already completely declined and were struggling at death's door. So, the force that Ke and Little Fei are in should be a force that appeared after reincarnation Emperor Wu reincarnated through the 3 lives rebirth technique in his second lifetime. This was something that Duan Lingtian could be 100% sure of now. Although Qin Xiang didn't know the exact name of the foreign lands force that Ke and Li Fei were in, Duan Lingtian still obtained important clues from her. Snow peaks and volcanoes. There shouldn't be many forces in the foreign lands that coexisted with these two forces. In the future when I go to the foreign lands again I can use this clue to inquire about it properly. As long as that force isn't a mediocre force I should be able to inquire about it. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. When he thought about how he would have the opportunity to see his fiancée Ke and Little Fei again soon, Duan Lingtian couldn't help but reveal a brilliant smile on his face. After bidding farewell to Qin Xiang, Duan Lingtian left Arcade Hall hastily and went to meet up with Feng Qianwu. After meeting up with Feng Qianwu, he still had to find Xiong Quan and help him repair his dantian. Just as Duan Lingtian and Feng Qianwu were meeting up, a few uninvited guests had arrived at the 5-Element Sect's residence in the eastern region of the northern desert far away in the foreign lands. 5-Element Sect, hand over Duan Lingtian. A loud and clear voice, like a clap of thunder, shook the clouds in the sky and clearly transmitted into the 5 peaks of the 5 element sect's encampment. For a time, the upper echelons and disciples in the 5 peaks of the 5 element sect felt as though they were facing a great enemy. Who are you? He wants our 5 element sect to hand over senior brother Ling Tian. The person who came should be from the second-rate force, Izumo sect. Senior martial brother Duan Ling Tian has killed 2 of the most outstanding youths in Izumo sect. Sure enough, Izumo sect can't hold back anymore and is coming to our 5 element sect for trouble. Soon, many of the 5 element sect's upper echelons and disciples guessed the identity of the person who had arrived. As it turned out, they were right. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Soon after, silhouettes shot up into the sky from the 5 peaks of the 5 element sect. They were the upper echelons of the 5 element sect led by 3 people. In just a blink of an eye, they arrived at the sky and confronted the person who had just arrived. There were a total of 4 people who had arrived. The person in the lead was a sturdy old man with an awe-inspiring aura. He merely stood there quietly. The profound aura that seemed to be able to merge with heaven and earth caused the 5 element sect's upper echelons to turn solemn. All they could feel was an invisible pressure that extended from the old man's body and shrouded their bodies. It was so oppressive that they could barely breathe. A martial monarch powerhouse? At this moment, the 5 element sect's upper echelons looked at the sturdy old man. They could not help but feel a jolt in their hearts. In their opinion, unless it was a powerhouse at the martial monarch stage or above, even a powerhouse at the peak of the void who had comprehended 3 or 4 9th-level void transformation concepts would not be able to give them such a feeling. Tongshan. They immediately guessed the identity of the sturdy old man. He was the only martial monarch powerhouse in Izumo sect, Tongshan. As the upper echelons of the 5 element sect, a third-rate force in the northern desert, they had a certain understanding of the 3 great second-rate forces in the northern desert, including Izumo sect and the martial monarch powerhouse in Izumo sect. Among the 5 element sect's upper echelons, the 3 people in the lead were Cha Bai, the peak master of Fire Peak, Yufeng, the peak master of Water Peak, and Jianghu, the peak master of Earth Peak. Are you senior Tongshan from Izumo sect? Jianghu looked at the sturdy old man and bowed politely as he asked. You're pretty good to be able to recognize my identity. However, you're not the sect leader of 5 element sect, right? Tongshan asked as he glanced at Jianghu nonchalantly. I'm Jianghu, the peak master of Earth Peak in 5 element sect. Jianghu smiled in response. Humph? In your 5 element sect, other than your sect leader, nobody else is qualified to talk to me. Ask your sect leader to come out and hand over Duan Ling Tian. Otherwise, I'll kill everyone in your 5 element sect today. Tongshan snorted coldly. When he reached the end of his sentence, his tone was filled with coldness. He was not courteous at all. Since all of you know who I am, it's only natural that you know how powerful I am. You should know that I have the ability to do so. Senior, you do indeed have the ability to do so. Faced with Tongshan's threat, Jianghu nodded his head seriously. However, there was no trace of fear on his face at all. It seemed as though he was not afraid at all. Since you know how powerful I am, why don't you go and ask your sect leader to come out? Upon hearing Jianghu's words, Tongshan thought that he had compromised. Disdain was written all over his face. Senior Tongshan, I'm really sorry. No matter if it's our sect leader or our peak master of Wood Peak, both of them are not in the 5 element sect recently. Jianghu spoke at a speed that was neither fast nor slow. His words were filled with certainty. Then hand over Duan Ling Tian. Killing intent shot out of Tongshan's eyes. When he mentioned Duan Ling Tian, the aura of a martial monarch powerhouse from his body swept out again, causing the 5 element sect's senior officials to have a change of expression. I'll give all of you 30 breaths of time. After 30 breaths of time, if all of you don't hand over Duan Ling Tian, the 5 element sect will cease to exist. Tongshan's voice was calm, but it was filled with a thick killing intent. At the same time, his eyes were filled with viciousness and ruthlessness. It was as though he was about to devour someone. Senior Tongshan, I'm afraid you still don't know, right? Back when we were still in Emperor Wu's secret treasure, Duan Ling Tian had already announced that he was leaving our 5 element sect. He's no longer a disciple of our 5 element sect. Under such circumstances, you still want to target our 5 element sect? Don't tell me that your Izumo sect is not afraid of becoming the laughingstock of the northern desert? Jianghu said nonchalantly. When he reached the end of his sentence, a hint of ridicule and mockery could be heard in his tone. You don't have to worry about that. I'll say it again. Either you hand over Duan Ling Tian or the five-element sect will be annihilated. Tong Shan's voice turned colder when he reached the end of his sentence. Senior Tong Shan, I've already said that Duan Ling Tian has already left our five-element sect. He's no longer a disciple of our five-element sect. Even we don't know where he went. Jianghu said again. Do you think I'll believe you? Tong Shan sneered. It doesn't matter if you believe it or not, Senior Tong Shan. That's the truth. Also, the reason our sect leader and Wood Peak's peak master aren't in the sect is because they're busy cultivating and making a breakthrough. However, before they left, they've already said that if anyone from Izumo's sect dares to touch even a strand of hair from our five-element sect while they're away, they'll definitely pay a visit to Izumo's sect after they've made a breakthrough to the martial monarch stage. Tiangu grinned and said unhurriedly. A threat. A blatant threat. Currently Tiangu was threatening Tong Shan. It caused Tong Shan's face to turn completely grave. Martial monarch stage. One had to admit that Tiangu's words had a certain deterrent effect. It was not just the people Tong Shan brought with him. Even Tong Shan himself could not help but have a change of expression when he heard Tiangu's threat. Martial monarch stage? Do you think it's so easy to make a breakthrough to the martial monarch stage? Tong Shan could not help but sneer when he heard Tiangu's words. Among the people present on the scene, only he had the right to speak about this. This was because he himself was a powerhouse who had made a breakthrough to the martial monarch stage. Our sect leader has already comprehended the 9th level advanced wind concept and 9th level advanced thunder concept. With the help of the wind profundity fragment and thunder profundity fragment, it's not difficult for him to make a breakthrough to the martial monarch stage. Tiangu did not care about Tong Shan's sneer. As for our peak master of Wood Peak, he has comprehended the 9th level advanced water concept and 9th level advanced water concept. Since he has comprehended two 9th level void transformation concepts that are completely opposite to each other, it's only a matter of time before he makes a breakthrough to the martial monarch stage. It had to be said that Tiangu's words finally caused Tong Shan's expression to change. Even the three people behind Tong Shan had a change of expression on their faces as well. The five-element sect had obtained two profundity fragments. Moreover, it seemed like the sect leader of the five-element sect had taken them away to cultivate. It was obvious that he was hiding somewhere to comprehend the profundity so that he could make a breakthrough to the martial monarch stage in one fell swoop. Moreover, the peak master of Wood Peak of the five-element sect had actually comprehended the 9th level void transformation concept of water and fire. It was not difficult for a powerhouse at the peak of the void to make a breakthrough to the martial monarch stage. It was only a matter of time. In other words, in the near future the five-element sect would have two more martial monarch powerhouses. At that time, even if the two of them were no match for Tong Shan, it would be as easy as cutting grass for them to kill the other people from Izumo's sect. Tong Shan's face turned green and pale. Only other martial monarch powerhouses could make a martial monarch powerhouse like him react in such a manner. Let's go. Tong Shan called out to the three people behind him and turned around to leave. It had to be said that Tong Shan did not dare to do anything to the five-element sect after he found out about their trump card. Unless he could find the sect leader of five-element sect and the peak master of Wood Peak and kill them before they made a breakthrough to the martial monarch stage, he would be able to prevent future troubles. Otherwise he did not dare to take the risk. Senior Tong Shan, I know where Duan Ling Tian is. Chapter 10:14. Tong Shan raised his eyebrows and turned his head around. His gaze swept across the five-element sect's upper echelons one by one as though he was trying to find out who had warned him via voice transmission earlier. When they saw Tong Shan's sharp gaze sweeping towards them, the faces of the five-element sect's upper echelons, including Tiangu and Yu Fong, turned solemn. Only Cha Bai, the peak master of Fire Peak, remained calm. His eyes were filled with coldness. Senior Tong Shan, after Duan Ling Tian left the Emperor Wu's secret treasure, he didn't return to our five-element sect. He must have returned to his hometown, the Dark Han dynasty. The one who sent the voice transmission to Tong Shan was none other than Cha Bai. At this moment, Cha Bai continued to speak to Tong Shan through voice transmission. As for the location of the Dark Han dynasty, Senior, you can go to the Blade sect in the southern of the northern desert and ask around. I think Blade sect will give you a satisfactory answer. Cha Bai finished his sentence in one breath. Tong Shan gave Cha Bai a deep look that was hard to notice. You're not bad at all. If the Duan Ling Tian is killed in the future, I Tong Shan will owe you a favor. Upon hearing this, Cha Bai's eyes lit up immediately. Had a martial emperor promised him a favor? For a time, his heart was filled with excitement and joy, and the resentment he had towards Duan Lingtian from the death of his personal disciple seemed to have been completely thrown to the back of his mind at this moment. If he wasn't worried that the other higher-ups of the Five Elements sect would notice the clues, he would have long since been unable to restrain himself from cheering excitedly. "Thank you, Senior." Chabai secretly took a deep breath. He tried his best to maintain a calm expression on his face as he sent a voice transmission to Tong Shan to express his gratitude. Tong Shan glanced at the Five Element sect's upper echelons coldly again before he left with the other three and disappeared before the Five Element sect's upper echelons. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. When the Five Element sect's higher-ups saw that Tong Shan had left with his men, their tensed minds relaxed, and they couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. As expected of a martial emperor. Just the aura that you're exuding is so oppressive that I can't breathe. Jianghu sighed. That's right. Martial emperors are too powerful. I wonder if I'll have the chance to break through to the martial monarch stage in my lifetime, Yufeng muttered to herself with a face full of anticipation. I wonder if I'll be able to break through to the martial monarch stage in my lifetime. When the sect leader and peak master Chiyu return, our Five Element sect will have two martial monarch powerhouses. At that time, our Five Element sect will become the fourth second-rate force in the northern desert. Nobody knew who said this, but it immediately lit up the eyes of all the senior officials of the Five Element sect other than Chabai. Their eyes were filled with anticipation. Duan Lingtian, this time you will die without a doubt. Chabai's eyes shone with a cold gleam. A sinister smile appeared on his face. It was as though he could already see Duan Lingtian being killed by Tong Shan, the martial monarch powerhouse from Izumo sect. Duan Lingtian naturally did not know what had happened in the Five Elements sect. He also did not know that under Chabai's guidance, Tong Shan had already made his way to the Blade sect in the southern of the northern desert to inquire about the whereabouts of the Dark Han dynasty. At this moment, Duan Lingtian had just left the Seven-Star Sword sect and met up with a fiery red silhouette that was hidden in the sky above the Seven-Star Sword sect. Elder brother Duan, have you found him? The owner of the fiery red silhouette was a red-clad lady with a graceful figure and a face that could topple a nation. Every frown and smile of hers seemed to be able to turn the world upside down. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded his head. At this moment he was still thinking about the foreign lands force that his two fiancées were in. Snow Peak. Volcano. This was the only clue that he had at the moment. Tianwu, let's go. Let's go look for Xiong Quan. After regaining his senses, Duan Lingtian called out to the lady and took the lead to fly out. Feng Qianwu's figure that was like a fire elf followed closely behind like a shadow. Duan Lingtian's figure flashed like lightning. However, before he could speed up, he could not help but frown. He looked at the sky behind the clouds in the distance as though he had noticed something. There's someone over there. Soon after, Feng Qianwu also heard the sound of wind whistling that was rapidly flying towards them. Someone was flying in the sky, and his target was the Seven-Star Sword sect that was behind them. Whoosh. Soon after, the clouds in front of them dispersed, and a figure that was as fast as lightning appeared before Duan Lingtian and Feng Qianwu's eyes. The figure that was as fast as lightning suddenly came to a halt when he was not far away from Duan Lingtian and Feng Qianwu. Ah! When the person's gaze landed on Duan Lingtian, his scarlet eyes flashed. Subsequently, he stretched out his hands and hugged his head as he screamed in pain. How's this possible? When the figure before them stopped, Duan Lingtian stopped as well. His face was covered in disbelief as he looked at the figure that was completely enveloped in strands of black mist. No matter what, he never imagined that he would be able to see this person here. Elder brother Duan, you know him? At this moment, Feng Qianwu, who followed Duan Lingtian to stop, just happened to see the astonishment and disbelief on Duan Lingtian's face, and she could not help but ask curiously. However, Duan Lingtian did not answer her. His gaze stared straight at the figure that was enveloped in black mist. It was an old man with scarlet eyes. At this moment, Duan Lingtian's breathing could not help but become hurried. The scene before his eyes gave him too great of a shock. Shouldn't he be fending for himself in that inscription formation? Wasn't his dantian destroyed by me? And his four limbs? They should have been crippled by me as well. Correct. Numerous questions arose in Duan Lingtian's heart. The person that appeared before him was none other than Zhao Ming. Zhao Ming was one of the two guardian elders of the Seven-Star Sword sect in the past, and he was called Elder Ming. All those years ago, when the Seven-Star Sword sect was annihilated, He betrayed the Seven-Star Sword Sect and joined the Azure Forest Trisect to become a guardian elder of the Azure Forest Trisect. Later on, he wanted to kill Duan Lingtian even more, yet he was instead tricked by Duan Lingtian into entering an inscription formation in the Darkstone Empire and was trapped within it. After the dynasty martial competition ended, Duan Lingtian's strength increased greatly and far surpassed Zhao Ming. After he entered the inscription formation once more and killed the other elder of the Azure Forest Trisect, he crippled Zhao Ming's Dantian and crippled Zhao Ming's 4 limbs. At that time, when he left the inscription formation, he thought that Zhao Ming would spend the rest of his life in terror that was worse than death. But never had he imagined that he would encounter Zhao Ming here today. Moreover, the current Zhao Ming seemed to be completely different from before. Zhao Ming gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. Isn't this Zhao Ming supposed to be a cripple? How could he possibly appear here? Moreover, he seems to possess a formidable strength. Duan Lingtian's expression was slightly unsightly, and his spiritual force stretched out with the intention of detecting Zhao Ming's cultivation. However, he quickly noticed, when his spiritual force approached the black mist that suffused the surface of Zhao Ming's body, it seemed as if it had entered into a ball of cotton and completely vanished, and he was utterly unable to detect Zhao Ming's cultivation. With my current spiritual force, I'm even able to detect the cultivation of a 9th-level void transformation stage martial artist. However, I can't detect Zhao Ming's cultivation with my spiritual power. Duan Lingtian's expression became even more unsightly. At the same time, a bad premonition arose in his heart. Could it be that he isn't Zhao Ming? Instead, it's a person that looks exactly like Zhao Ming? In next to no time, a fluke thought suddenly arose in Duan Lingtian's heart. But this thought had only just arisen when it was mercilessly crushed by the old man that stood nearby. Duan Lingtian. I remember now. You're Duan Lingtian. You're Duan Lingtian. The scarlet-red eyes of the old man in the distance that were originally dim instantly had a bit of brilliance, and it seemed as if it was filled with life. After that, he stared at Duan Lingtian and gnashed his teeth as he roared. It's really Zhao Ming. Duan Lingtian's heart jerked when he saw the savage and hatred revealed on the old man's face, and his expression completely sank. Ah! Duan Lingtian, I finally found you. Today not only will I kill you, I'll even annihilate the 7-Star Sword Sect that you rebuilt. Presently, Zhao Ming had recovered his senses from his initial daze, and he looked at Duan Lingtian as he laughed wildly, and his laughter was filled with ruthlessness and hatred. Zhao Ming, I never expected that you're still alive. Duan Lingtian's eyes flickered with cold lights as he spoke in a low voice. You naturally want me to die. But unfortunately, you weren't able to kill me. You didn't kill me that day, but I'll kill you today. Remember this properly on the road to hell. If you don't pull out the roots, it'll grow again when the spring breeze blows. As Zhao Ming finished speaking, he actually started to educate Duan Lingtian. I was able to cripple you that day, and I can kill you today as well. Duan Lingtian spoke coldly. He was extremely confident towards his current strength. Although he was unable to see through how strong Zhao Ming's current cultivation was, as far as he was concerned, it ought to be impossible for Zhao Ming to defeat him. After all, when Zhao Ming's Dantian and limbs were crippled by him, Zhao Ming was only a void initiation stage martial artist. Now, only a little over a year had passed since he crippled Zhao Ming that day. As far as he was concerned. In merely a little over a year, even if Zhao Ming had a fortuitous encounter, it was still impossible for Zhao Ming to defeat him. Is that so? Zhao Ming laughed when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. His laughter was filled with arrogance. Duan Lingtian, I won't be in a hurry to kill you today. I'll let you have a good taste of despair just like what you did to me last time. Amidst his laughter, the black fog around Zhao Ming's body fluctuated, emitting waves of terrifying aura. Boom, 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 boom. Subsequently, when the black fog around Zhao Ming's body fluctuated, the airflow in the air was compressed, setting off waves of thunderous air explosions that shook the hearts of people. What a powerful strength! Duan Lingtian's expression changed. Feng Qianwu's beautiful face, who stood by his side, also changed slightly. Whoosh. At the same time, the heaven and earth energy above Zhao Ming's head stirred and finally gathered into the heaven and earth phenomenon. Silhouettes of ancient horned dragons appeared before Duan Lingtian and Feng Qianwu's eyes one after another, and the number continued to increase. 100, 200, 300, 1,000. It was still increasing. The strength of 3,000 ancient horned dragons. Chapter 10-15. Duan Lingtian could not help but be horrified when he saw the scene before his eyes. Even with the help of the quasi-royal grade spirit sword and his full strength, his strength was only equivalent to the strength of 3,000 ancient horned dragons. However, Zhao Ming had not even used his spirit weapon yet, and he had already displayed such a powerful strength. His strength is still increasing? Soon after, Duan Lingtian's eyes could not help but narrow. Heavens! What did he just see? The heaven and earth phenomenon above Zhao Ming's head, the number of ancient horned dragon silhouettes, was still increasing. It was as though there was no end to it. 4,000 heads. 5,000, 6,000 heads. In the end, Duan Lingtian was so shocked that he was numb. He was dumbstruck as he stared at the over 7,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes that were no longer increasing. Feng Qianwu, who was standing next to Duan Lingtian, had a completely different expression on her face. A martial monarch powerhouse? In Feng Qianwu's opinion, a person who could mobilize the heaven and earth energy and gather such a heaven and earth phenomenon could only be a powerhouse at the martial monarch stage or above. Even a peak void powerhouse who had comprehended 5 types of 9th level void transformation concepts would not be able to trigger such an exaggerated heaven and earth phenomenon without using his spirit weapon. Those who could be called a peak void powerhouse were all 9th level void transformation martial artists who had comprehended more than 2 types of 9th level void transformation concepts. A 9th level void transformation martial artist's full strength was equivalent to the strength of 1,200 ancient horned dragons. A 9th level void transformation concept was equivalent to the strength of 1,000 ancient horned dragons. Therefore, a peak void powerhouse who had comprehended 5 types of 9th level void transformation concepts would only have the strength of 6,200 ancient horned dragon silhouettes when he unleashed his full strength without using his spirit weapon. Such strength was not even worth mentioning when compared to the old man before him. The Zhao Ming. What did he go through? How could he possess such a powerful strength? After being extremely shocked, Duan Lingtian completely regained his senses. His eyes were filled with shock when he looked at Zhao Ming again. He did not expect Zhao Ming's current strength to be so powerful. After a year, the strength that Zhao Ming possessed was already comparable to a martial monarch powerhouse. It was far from what he could compare to now. The strength of over 7,000 ancient horned dragons. What did that mean? Even if he used the quasi-royal grade spirit sword and unleashed his full strength, his strength would not even be half of Zhao Ming's strength. Zhao Ming could kill him with just a wave of his hand. Duan Lingtian, didn't you say that since you were able to cripple me back then, you can still kill me today? I'd like to see how you're going to kill me. The change in Duan Lingtian's expression had been observed by Zhao Ming from beginning to end. When he saw the ugly expression on Duan Lingtian's face, a sinister and complacent smile appeared on his face. Zhao Ming, it looks like you've had quite a fortuitous encounter. In just a short span of a year or so, you actually possess such formidable strength. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and said to Zhao Ming with a solemn expression. What? Are you afraid? Zhao Ming smiled a sinister smile. This feeling of having everything in his hands made him feel as if the blood in his body was boiling. Scared? You. Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes as a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. You're still so stubborn even when you're at death's door. Today I will return everything that you gave me last time to you in full detail. However, after I cripple your dantian and limbs, I will personally watch you struggle on your deathbed for 3 days and 3 nights before I kill you. Zhao Ming snorted coldly. His face was filled with coldness, and his eyes gleamed with a vicious gleam. If you cut the weeds without removing the roots, they'll grow again when the spring breeze blows. The fact that Duan Lingtian did not take his life back then and allowed him to recover and possess such a powerful strength was undoubtedly a living example of this. Therefore he would not repeat Duan Lingtian's mistake. However, until now he still could not recall what he had experienced. In his memory, after Duan Lingtian crippled his dantian and limbs and left, he fainted. When he regained consciousness again, he found himself in a mountain range. Moreover, he possessed a strength that was equivalent to the strength of over 7,000 ancient horned dragons. His new strength was a few hundred times stronger than his previous strength. My current strength is comparable to a martial monarch stage powerhouse. Although Zhao Ming was only a member of the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, he still had a certain level of understanding towards martial monarch stage powerhouses. It was precisely because of this that he knew. His current strength was comparable to a martial monarch stage powerhouse. After crippling my dantian and limbs, you'll personally watch me struggle for 3 days and 3 nights before killing me? Needless to say, Zhao Ming's extremely vicious words caused coldness to arise from the bottom of Duan Lingtian's heart. At this moment, it was just as Zhao Ming had said. He regretted not removing the roots that day. At that time, because he hated Zhao Ming to the extreme, he joined forces with the members of the Azure Forest Trisect to kill the Seven-Star Sword Sect's elder Xian and the former sect leader, Linghu Jinhong, after Zhao Ming betrayed the Seven-Star Sword Sect. Therefore he did not directly kill Zhao Ming. He wanted Zhao Ming to live a life worse than death for the rest of his life so as to eliminate the hatred in his heart. Never had he imagined that after a year, not only had Zhao Ming's crippled dantian and limbs recovered, he even possessed such formidable strength. Could it be that? There's still something that I haven't noticed within the inscription formation in the Darkstone Empire? Now, Duan Lingtian only thought that Zhao Ming's fortuitous encounter was within the inscription formation. Otherwise he couldn't think of what fortuitous encounter Zhao Ming could have. With Zhao Ming's state at that time, it was impossible for his fortuitous encounter to be outside the inscription formation. Unless someone entered the inscription formation to save him and gave him such a fortuitous encounter. But if one wanted to help him repair his dantian, one would either need an immortal spirit herb or a healing medicinal pill at the level of the quasi-royal grade resurrection pill. Duan Lingtian felt that all of this was unrealistic. 10,000 years ago, even though the Samsara Emperor Wu leaked out some quasi-royal grade resurrection pills and royal grade resurrection pills, but they all flowed into the hands of a few formidable powers on Cloud Continent. After 10,000 years, I'm afraid they've been used up long ago. Even if they haven't been used up, it's impossible for them to appear in the Darkhan dynasty, let alone the Darkstone Empire. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Moreover, even if someone really saved Zhao Ming, it's impossible for that person to bestow him with such terrifying strength. In just over a year's time, Zhao Ming transformed from a void initiation stage martial artist whose strength was only comparable to a dozen ancient horned dragons to a powerhouse who possessed the strength of over 7,000 ancient horned dragons and was comparable to a martial monarch. Even Emperor Wu might not have such a method. One had to admit that Zhao Ming's improvement had shocked Duan Lingtian. No matter how he searched through the Samsara Emperor Wu's memories, he couldn't find any method that could allow a person to possess such powerful strength in such a short period of time. Moreover, Zhao Ming's strength was very strange. The black energy surrounding Zhao Ming's body doesn't seem to be origin energy nor concept. What energy is that? Duan Lingtian frowned as he looked at Zhao Ming. Soon after, Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed as though he recalled something. The energy surrounding Zhao Ming's body seems to be similar to the energy that appeared on the Devil Seal tablet. At that time, before he was devilified by the Devil Seal tablet and killed the 6 elders of the Skywolf Fort in one fell swoop, the black energy that wasn't origin energy or concept had appeared on the Devil Seal tablet. That black energy fused into his body and soul, causing him to lose consciousness, but at the same time, it also gave him extremely powerful strength. At that time he was only a void interpretation stage martial artist. However, after he was devilified by the Devil Seal tablet, he managed to kill 6 void transformation stage elders of the Skywolf Fort. Could it be that Zhao Ming was devilified as well? Duan Lingtian's eyes narrowed again as he guessed inwardly. However, since he was devilified, why didn't he lose his mind? Duan Lingtian could not figure this out no matter how hard he thought about it. Boom. At this moment, a wave of scorching aura surged towards him, causing Duan Lingtian's expression to change instantly. When he turned his head around, he immediately saw a vast flame rising from Feng Tianwu's body. It soared into the sky and emitted a scorching aura that covered the entire sky. Whoosh. Above Feng Tianwu's head, 1,000 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons first appeared before it turned into 2,000 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons. Tianwu. Duan Lingtian's expression changed dramatically. He did not expect Feng Tianwu to communicate and cast the first-level Monarch stage fire profundity all of a sudden. At this moment he could clearly feel it. The fire spirit body's energy in Tianwu's body was about to explode. It was as though it was going to explode from Feng Tianwu's body. Whoosh. After the 2,000 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons appeared, the heaven and earth phenomenon was still changing. Soon after, another 1,000 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons appeared. The strength of 3,000 ancient horned dragons. Second-level Monarch stage fire profundity. Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian's expression changed again. At this moment he could feel the fire spirit body's energy in Feng Tianwu's body becoming even more restless. He did not have time to think. He hurriedly used his voice transmission to pierce into Feng Tianwu's ears. Tianwu, quickly retract your fire profundity. I have a way to deal with this, Zhao Ming. Really, I have a way. Duan Lingtian's voice was filled with panic. In the past, he only knew that Feng Tianwu could cast the first-level Monarch Stage Fire Profundity. He did not know that Feng Tianwu could cast the second-level Monarch Stage Fire Profundity. Moreover, he had a feeling that if Tianwu continued, she might be able to cast the third, fourth, fifth, or sixth-level Monarch Stage Fire Profundity. However, if Tianwu did that, she would definitely die. In fact, before she could even unleash the Monarch Stage Fire Profundity, the energy that originated from the fire spirit body in her body would have already caused her to explode. After Feng Tianwu witnessed the strength that Zhao Ming had displayed and heard the irreconcilable hatred between Zhao Ming and Duan Lingtian from their conversation, she had a plan in her heart. Even if she had to risk her life, she would still kill Zhao Ming and save her elder brother Duan from danger. She would do anything, including her life, for her elder brother Duan. Really? Chapter 10:16. She thought Duan Lingtian only said that to comfort her. It's true. Duan Lingtian nodded immediately. He did not dare to hesitate. He knew. As long as he denied it, this silly girl would definitely disregard her own life and raise the level of the fire profundity she cast to fight Zhao Ming with all her might. After taking a serious look at Duan Lingtian, she could tell the Duan Lingtian did not seem to be lying to her. The flames that rose from Feng Tianwu's body gradually disappeared into the air. At the same time, Feng Tianwu's beautiful face turned pale. Barf? Subsequently, the energy that originated from the fire spirit body in her body began to stir, causing her internal organs to tremble. She felt a sweetness in her throat, and she immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Silly girl. Upon seeing this, Duan Lingtian's heart ached for no reason, and his eyes were filled with tenderness. Humph? I thought you had some tricks up your sleeve. I didn't expect you to turn pale and spit out blood after merely casting the strength of 3,000 ancient horned dragons. Zhao Ming, who had a solemn expression when he saw Feng Tianwu drawing the heaven and earth energy to form the heaven and earth phenomenon, could not help but snort coldly when he saw this scene. A mocking smile crept up on his face. He could see it. The reason Feng Tianwu was able to cast such a powerful force must be because she had cast a secret technique that risked her life. Otherwise, she would not have been injured by his own strength. Since you're willing to risk your life for this Duan Lingtian, I presume you must be in love with him. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish today and let you and him be a pair of dying ducks. Zhao Ming spoke slowly. His words were filled with cold killing intent. As soon as his words left his mouth, the wisps of black mist around his body began to move abruptly, emitting a terrifying aura. Boom, 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 boom. The movement of the black mist caused the airflow in the air to be compressed, setting off a series of thunderous air explosions. At the same time, a gust of black energy appeared out of thin air in Zhao Ming's hand. It completely condensed together and emitted a terrifying aura as though it could destroy everything. Then he looked at Feng Tianwu, his eyes filled with killing intent. As soon as Zhao Ming's voice fell, Duan Lingtian's face had already turned grave. A talisman silently appeared in his hand. It was one of the 3 talismans that cheapskate father of his had left him. He'd used one of the 3 talismans when he killed the number 1 expert of the Dark Han dynasty's imperial family, Bai Nan Xiang, and he still had 2 left. Bai Nan Xiang was a first-level void transformation stage martial artist, and after he utilized the talisman, killing him would only take an instant. I wonder if this talisman can kill Zhao Ming. After all, Zhao Ming's current strength is comparable to a martial monarch powerhouse. If the talisman doesn't work, I'll have to use the Devil Seal tablet to devilize it. Duan Lingtian secretly sucked in a breath of cold air and had a plan in mind. However, the current him seemed to have forgotten one thing, which was also the most important thing. At that time, the reason he was devilized by the Devil Seal tablet was because the Devil Seal tablet took the initiative to contact him. If the Devil Seal tablet didn't take the initiative to contact him, he would be utterly unable to make the Devil Seal tablet devilize him. Instantly, Duan Lingtian's gaze locked firmly onto Zhao Ming. Right when Zhao Ming's clothes fluttered and he was about to make a move to kill Feng Tianwu, Duan Lingtian suddenly shouted out explosively, and it shocked Zhao Ming to the point his figure that was just about to flash out stopped. Up here. Duan Lingtian's shout shocked Zhao Ming. At the instant Zhao Ming reacted, he looked at Duan Lingtian and just happened to see a piece of paper floating lightly towards him, and it emitted a terrifying force that caused his heart to palpitate. Stop. At practically the instant Duan Lingtian threw out the talisman in his hand and shouted out, "Appear!" An explosive shout like a thunderclap descended from the sky. Accompanying this explosive shout was a figure that was like a ghost that appeared out of thin air by Zhao Ming's side. Unfortunately, he was too late. When he appeared, there was already a hideous bloody hole in between Zhao Ming's brows. An arrow of blood spurted out from the bloody hole, causing Zhao Ming's gaze to become unfocused, and he fell to the ground. At the instant Zhao Ming reacted, he did not even have time to think before he was killed by the condensed energy that shot out from the talisman that had already turned into powder. Zhao Ming's body fell from the sky and disappeared before Duan Lingtian's eyes in just a blink of an eye. That's... Feng Qianwu's beautiful face was filled with shock, and her pair of beautiful eyes shone with an incredulous gleam. The scene she saw earlier was definitely the most unbelievable scene she had ever seen in her life. She saw it. Her elder brother Duan had only thrown out a piece of paper that was filled with scribbles and shouted, "Appear." In the next moment, the piece of paper shattered strangely and turned into powder that filled the sky. At the same time, Zhao Ming, who could unleash the strength of over 7,000 ancient horned dragons without using any spirit weapon, and whose strength was comparable to a martial monarch powerhouse, had a bloody hole in between his brows. He was killed in just a blink of an eye. As for how Zhao Ming died, although she did not see it clearly, she knew it had something to do with the piece of paper that had turned into powder that filled the sky with scribbles. "What's that?" Feng Qianwu was shocked. She had no idea what the piece of paper that Duan Lingtian had thrown out was. It actually possessed such a powerful energy. Soon after, Feng Qianwu's attention shifted to the black figure that appeared out of thin air. The thunderous roar just now was made by this person. Whoosh! When Duan Lingtian saw that the talisman left behind by his cheapskate father had killed Zhao Ming in just a second, he heaved a sigh of relief as though a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. However, his face quickly turned solemn again. Another talisman appeared in his hand. At the same time, he stared intently at the black-clad middle-aged man who had appeared out of thin air before him. Earlier, when he threw the talisman at Zhao Ming and shouted, "Activate!" the other party had stopped him and descended from the sky. It was clear that he did not come with good intentions. Moreover, the other party might even know Zhao Ming. Coupled with the other party's elusive speed, he realized that the other party's strength was not any weaker than Zhao Ming. Therefore, he hurriedly took out the remaining talisman. Duan Lingtian noticed that when the talisman appeared in his hand again, the black-clad middle-aged man who was staring at him coldly suddenly tensed up. When Duan Lingtian saw this, he could not help but heave a sigh of relief again. He could see that the black-clad middle-aged man was afraid of the talisman in his hand. It made sense when he thought about it. The scene of him throwing out the talisman and killing Zhao Ming in just a blink of an eye was witnessed by the other party. It would be strange if the other party was not afraid after seeing the talisman in his hand. "Dao Talisman. You're just a mortal stage martial cultivator from a remote continent. Where did you get a Dao Talisman from?" The black-clad middle-aged man with an ordinary appearance looked at Duan Lingtian and asked in a low voice, "A remote continent? A mortal stage martial cultivator?" Duan Lingtian couldn't help but be stunned when he heard the black-clothed middle-aged man's words. Even Feng Tianwu, who stood by his side, had a face that could be said to be devastatingly beautiful as well. Since when did the Cloud Continent become a remote continent? Based on the black-clad middle-aged man's tone, he seemed to not be from Cloud Continent. Besides that, what was a mortal stage martial cultivator? "You're not from Cloud Continent?" Duan Lingtian's eyes flashed as he asked with a serious expression. After fusing with the memories of Reincarnation Emperor Wu, he knew very well that outside Cloud Continent, in the depths of the sea, there was a group of powerful demons. There were even demon emperors that Reincarnation Emperor Wu could not match when he was at his prime. According to Reincarnation Emperor Wu's guess, besides many powerful demon emperors, there might even be some Emperor Wu with shocking strength in the depths of the sea. Unfortunately, even with Reincarnation Emperor Wu's strength that could be said to be number one on Cloud Continent all those years ago, he had to take every step carefully in the depths of the sea, and it was difficult for him to explore the secrets in the depths of the sea. In Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memories, he even heard that many Emperor Wu experts of the older generation on Cloud Continent had once entered the depths of the sea to explore the secrets in the depths of the sea. However, after those Emperor Wu experts of the older generation left, none of them returned. According to the guesses of the people on Cloud Continent, it's very likely that those Emperor Wu experts of the older generation were lost in the depths of the sea and were unable to find their way back. According to Reincarnation Emperor Wu's guesses, Those Emperor Wu experts of the older generation either died in the hands of those powerful demon emperors in the depths of the sea, or they settled down in the depths of the sea or even overseas. According to Reincarnation Emperor Wu's guesses, in this world besides Cloud Continent, it's very likely that there are other continents. The other continents should be at the other end of the depths of the sea. Duan Lingtian easily found out about this when he searched through Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memories. Reincarnation Emperor Wu had once seen a paragraph of text records in an ancient ruin. It was a record left behind by an ancient martial artist. The text clearly stated that he'd once encountered a powerhouse that came from outside Cloud Continent. That powerhouse only used a single move to defeat him. Whereas the martial artist that left behind that paragraph of text called himself in existence at the 6th level of the Emperor Wu stage. Even when Reincarnation Emperor Wu was at his prime, he was only at the 4th level of the Emperor Wu stage. Besides that, during the era of Reincarnation Emperor Wu, he was the only Emperor Wu on Cloud Continent that was at the 4th level of the Emperor Wu stage or above. So, he was the well-deserved number 1 Emperor Wu on Cloud Continent at that time. Duan Lingtian was able to find out all of this from Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memories. Defeated an expert at the 6th level of the Emperor Wu stage with a single move? An expert at the 6th level of the Emperor Wu stage, even if Reincarnation Emperor Wu was at his prime, he would still be defeated with a single move. An existence that's able to defeat an expert at the 6th level of the Emperor Wu stage with a single move. How terrifying would that be? When he thought up to here, Duan Lingtian felt a wave of fear. I'm naturally not from this remote continent of yours. The black-clothed middle-aged man couldn't help but snort coldly when he heard Duan Lingtian's question. Chapter 10:17. Then where are you from? Duan Lingtian asked again. The black-clad middle-aged man's fearful gaze when he looked at the talisman in his hand was caught by Duan Lingtian. The talisman in his hand was given to him by his cheapskate father. However, he did not expect that even this powerhouse who was suspected to be from outside the Cloud Continent would be fearful of the talisman in his hand. Where am I from? The black-clad middle-aged man took a deep breath and looked at Duan Lingtian angrily. Are you kidding me? Since you have the Dao talisman drawn by a Saint Rudiment stage Dao cultivator, how can you not know where I'm from? This time, I won't pursue the matter of you destroying my human puppet for the sake of the Saint Rudiment stage Dao cultivator behind you. Otherwise, even if you have the Dao talisman he left for you, I'll still kill you even if I'm severely injured. The black-clad middle-aged man shouted coldly. Based on his words, he was saying that the talisman in Duan Lingtian's hand could severely injure him. The moment the black-clad middle-aged man's words left his mouth, he disappeared before Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu's eyes. It was as though he was never there. Duan Lingtian could not help but smile wryly when he saw the black-clad middle-aged man coming and going without a trace. I still have many things to ask him. Why did he leave so quickly? Whether it was the mortal stage martial cultivator or the Saint Rudiment stage Dao cultivator mentioned by the black-clad middle-aged man, they were extremely unfamiliar to Duan Lingtian. Even if he searched the Reincarnation Emperor Wu's memories of his 2 lifetimes, he could not find any related records. Mortal stage martial cultivator, Saint Rudiment stage Dao cultivator. Even the Reincarnation Emperor Wu has never heard of it in his 2 lifetimes. It was precisely because of this that Duan Lingtian was surprised. Could it be that the mortal stage martial cultivator and Saint Rudiment stage Dao cultivator are cultivation realms from the depths of the ocean or even another continent overseas? Just like our Cloud Continent's Void stage, Martial Monarch stage and Emperor Wu stage? Soon, Duan Lingtian, who had regained his senses, couldn't help but guess. The more he thought about it, the more certain he became. Besides that, the black-clothed middle-aged man even said that the talisman in my hand was a Dao talisman. Moreover, it's a Dao talisman drawn by a Saint Rudiment stage cultivator. Thinking of this, Duan Lingtian could not help but ponder. The talisman in his hand, or more accurately, the Dao talisman, was given to him by his cheapskate father, Duan Ruffing, before he left. Father, why would you have a Dao talisman? Could it be that he... For a moment, a crazy idea appeared in Duan Lingtian's mind. That cheapskate father of his had most likely not been on Cloud Continent during the 20 years he had been away. Otherwise, where would he get the Dao talisman from? A Dao talisman was obviously not something from Cloud Continent. Could it be that father brought mother, Jianghu, and the others away from Cloud Continent and brought them to another continent overseas? The moment he thought of this, the corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth could not help but twitch violently. No wonder there's no record of this talisman even in the memories of the reincarnation Emperor Wu's 2 lifetimes. As it turns out, this is not something from Cloud Continent at all. Unknowingly, Duan Lingtian's gaze landed on the Dao talisman in his hand, and a faint wry smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. In the past, in his opinion, as long as he stood at the peak of Cloud Continent, he would be able to look down on the world and look down on the common people. However, it seemed like even if he really stood at the peak of Cloud Continent like the reincarnation Emperor Wu did in the past, there were still many people who were more powerful than him in the depths of the sea or even the other continent overseas. Looks like the older generation of Emperor Wu powerhouses on Cloud Continent might really have gone to the other continent overseas just as the reincarnation Emperor Wu had guessed. That place has mortal stage martial cultivators, saint rudiment stage Dao cultivators, and even Dao talismans. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. If father really brought mother, Jianghu, and the others away from Cloud Continent and went to the other continent overseas, his current strength is far from what an ordinary Emperor Wu can compare to. After taking a deep breath, Duan Lingtian muttered to himself with a solemn expression. Now I'm almost certain. When Peak Master Qin Xiang and I faced Zhao Ming and the other Azure Forest Trisex Guardian Elders in the sky above the Crimson Sky Kingdom's Imperial City, I'm almost certain that the voice that was deliberately lowered and hoarse was Father's voice. Father is that mysterious powerhouse hidden in the Crimson Sky Kingdom. Although Duan Lingtian had guessed this in the past, he did not dare to be 100% certain. Now he could be 100% certain. That mysterious powerhouse was his deadbeat father, an existence that could easily suppress the 3 6th level void initiation stage martial artists in the sky above the Crimson Sky Kingdom's Imperial City. Even the current him was unable to do such a thing. Father's strength might be even stronger than the reincarnation Emperor Wu when he was at his prime. I really don't know what exactly he experienced during the 20 years he left to actually allow him to possess such a terrifying strength. Compared to father, the fortuitous encounters I encountered all along the way like fusing with the memories of 2 lifetimes of the reincarnation Emperor Wu and the various fortuitous encounters after that are not worth mentioning. When he thought up to here, Duan Lingtian laughed in self-ridicule. However, if father is really an expert from the other continent overseas, why didn't he bring me along when he left with mother, Jianghu, Bai Yao and Xiaolan? Duan Lingtian was puzzled by this. No matter what, he was the son of his deadbeat father. Logically speaking, his deadbeat father should not have allowed him to stay on Cloud Continent and fend for himself like this. Perhaps there's another reason why father didn't bring me along. Now Duan Lingtian could only think in this way. After all, there was no parent that did not wish for their children to stay by their side. At the same time, Duan Lingtian's thoughts flashed as he seemed to have thought of something. With a raise of his hand, he withdrew a jade box, and it was precisely the exquisite jade box that his deadbeat father, Duan Ruffing, had left him. As he looked at the exquisite jade box in his hand, Duan Lingtian's mind once again resounded with the message his father had left him in the voice transmission jade slip. Besides those 3 talismans, I've left you an exquisite jade box. Once you have the ability to open it in the future, you'll know where your mother and I are. These were the original words of his deadbeat father, Duan Ruffing. Currently, even if I don't use the quasi-royal grade spirit sword, my strength is equivalent to the strength of over 2,000 ancient horned dragons. I should be able to open this exquisite jade box now, right? Duan Lingtian's heart jolted as he placed both of his hands on the jade box. Origin energy rose as the 4 types of concepts followed him like shadows. In the next moment, the heaven and earth energy above Duan Lingtian's head swirled and finally gathered into 2,200 lifelike ancient horned dragon silhouettes that wriggled down. Originally, Feng Qianwu found it strange when she heard Duan Lingtian muttering words that she did not understand from time to time. However, although she found it strange, she was sensible enough not to disturb Duan Lingtian. Now, when she saw the heaven and earth phenomenon that appeared above Duan Lingtian's head, her beautiful face could not help but change slightly. She did not expect this at all. Her elder brother Duan actually possessed such a powerful strength today. Back then in the Emperor Wu's secret treasure, outside Qingfeng Palace, elder brother Duan fought with Lei Zhong, the strongest person among the younger generation in Izumo sect. With the help of his spirit weapon, his strength was only equivalent to the strength of 1,600 ancient horned dragons when he unleashed his full strength. However, now, without the help of his spirit weapon, elder brother Duan only used his origin energy and concept to display a strength that's equivalent to the strength of 2,200 ancient horned dragons. Feng Qianwu secretly gasped. For a moment, she could not help but be shocked by the strength that Duan Lingtian displayed. Now she finally understood. Why did her elder brother Duan have the confidence to protect her and Zhang Shouyong during the journey back to the Darkhan dynasty from the northern desert? As it turned out, elder brother Duan already possessed such a powerful strength. It seems like elder brother Duan's fortuitous encounter in Qingfeng Palace is extraordinary. Feng Qianwu thought to herself. Ever since she left Emperor Wu's secret treasure, she had never left Duan Lingtian. Therefore, in her opinion, the reason why her elder brother Duan's strength had improved so much must be because he had encountered some enviable fortuitous encounter in Emperor Wu's secret treasure. I still can't open it. Soon after, Feng Qianwu heard Duan Lingtian's sigh. She realized that Duan Lingtian had used the strength of 2,200 ancient horned dragons just to open the exquisite jade box in his hand. However, based on her elder brother Duan's words, he still could not open the jade box even after using the strength of 2,200 ancient horned dragons? What jade box is that? Even the strength of 2,200 ancient horned dragons can't open it? For a moment, Feng Qianwu's beautiful face changed slightly. Before she could react, she noticed that a sword had appeared in Duan Lingtian's hand with a raise of his hand. It was a sword that emitted a terrifying aura. It was Duan Lingtian's quasi-royal grade spirit sword. As soon as the quasi-royal grade spirit sword appeared, another 800 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons appeared in the sky again. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian's hand shook, and the sword that contained the strength of 3,000 ancient horned dragons pierced toward the crack on the exquisite jade box at lightning speed. He intended to pry it open by force. Clang. However, as a soft sound resonated, the exquisite jade box did not move at all. There wasn't even the slightest trace of a mark on the crack at the closing point. What's this exquisite jade box made of? It's actually so hard. In the end, Duan Lingtian could only give up. As he put away the quasi-royal grade spirit sword, he sighed again. He realized that it was still difficult for him to open the exquisite jade box with his current strength. Father is really getting more and more mysterious. After returning to his senses, Duan Lingtian could not help but smile wryly. At the same time, he put the exquisite jade box away. Elder brother Duan, what jade box is that? Not only did your sword that contained the strength of 3,000 ancient horned dragons not open it, it didn't even leave a single trace on it. Chapter 10:18. I don't know either. Duan Lingtian smiled wryly as he shook his head. Even though that exquisite jade box was left behind for him by that cheapskate father of his, he knew nothing about its background, let alone what was inside it. Of course, there was one thing he could confirm. His cheapskate father must have left behind a voice transmission jade slip inside, and the message inside should be able to tell him about the other continent outside the ocean. Of course, other than the voice transmission jade slip, there must be something else inside the exquisite jade box. Duan Lingtian had an extremely strong intuition about this. Perhaps I'll have to wait until my cultivation base breaks through to the martial monarch stage before I can open it. Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Tianwu, let's go. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian called out to Feng Qianwu and continued their journey to Xiongquan's hometown. He was prepared to look for Xiongquan and help him repair his dantian. Okay. Feng Qianwu nodded obediently and followed Duan Lingtian silently like a shadow. Duan Lingtian quickly found Xiongquan's hometown based on his memory of sending him back. It was a remote little village located in the mountains. Although the little village was remote, it was full of life. When Duan Lingtian and Feng Qianwu arrived here, they could vaguely see the scene of men plowing and women weaving in the village. There were also children playing happily in the village without any worries. If I can stay in a place like this with the person I like for the rest of my life would not be in vain. Feng Qianwu looked down at the scene in the village. Her autumn eyes that seemed to be able to melt everything were as gentle as water. Her red lips parted slightly as she muttered involuntarily. It's normal for you to think like this. However, if it were them, they would most likely wish to have a strong martial strength to explore the outside world and have a good look at the outside world. Duan Lingtian smiled faintly as he spoke. Naturally, one would have different thoughts when standing in a different position. For example, Feng Qianwu, who grew up with a golden spoon in her mouth, was a veritable, proud daughter of heaven. It was not strange for her to be moved by such a peaceful scene. However, if it were the villagers in the village, they would rather be like Feng Qianwu, who had extraordinary martial arts and could go outside to have a look. Because they were too weak and did not have the ability to protect themselves, they did not dare to leave the village easily. Hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Feng Qianwu realized that her muttering had been heard by Duan Lingtian. For a moment, her beautiful face couldn't help but blush as if blood could drip out of it. Feng Qianwu's slightly bashful and lovely appearance caused Duan Lingtian, who happened to be looking at her, to become absent-minded. He couldn't help but have the desire to move forward and fiercely kiss the face of the beauty in front of him. "You may leave." Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and suppressed his somewhat restless emotions. After greeting Feng Qianwu, he took the lead to descend from the sky. Originally, Feng Qianwu was secretly delighted when she saw Duan Lingtian's fiery gaze. However, now that she saw Duan Lingtian descending to the village as if he was escaping, she could not help but sigh again. What a block of wood. Glancing at the tall purple figure with some anger, Feng Qianwu moved her body, and as if she had transformed into a fire elf, she followed him like a shadow. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian's body swept like the wind and descended from the sky like a goshawk. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at a low altitude of the village and appeared in front of the villagers in the village. Wow! He can actually fly. The first to notice Duan Lingtian was a 4 or 5-year-old boy. He looked at Duan Lingtian, who was standing in the air, and shouted excitedly. It was as if he'd discovered a new continent. "I heard my father say that only an expert at the void-prying stage or above is able to fly and stand in the air. Looks like he's an expert at the void-prying stage or above." A young girl that looked to be 13 or 14 said. "An expert at the void-prying stage or above? Then wouldn't he be as formidable as Uncle Xiongquan?" Another 7 or 8-year-old boy exclaimed in surprise. Unlike the naivety of the group of children, the expressions of the group of adult villagers that noticed Duan Lingtian had changed, and their eyes were filled with terror. They looked at Duan Lingtian with a gaze as if they'd seen a scourge or a ferocious beast. Their thoughts were very simple. Logically speaking, it was impossible for an expert like this to descend to their village. However, now that he'd descended to their village, it was most probably not a good thing. In next to no time, a villager's eyes flashed as he hastily turned around and left, as if he was going to send a message. After a short moment, the eyes of the remaining group of adult villagers flashed as they noticed that a red-clothed young woman had appeared out of thin air beside the violet-clothed young man that stood in the air. The red-clothed young woman had a graceful figure and a drop-dead gorgeous appearance, causing them to be dumbstruck for a moment. So beautiful. Is this Big Sister Fairy? Big Sister Fairy has descended to the mortal world. It wasn't only the group of adult villagers that were attracted by the red-clothed young woman. Even the children that were originally playing in the village had stopped what they were doing and stared fixedly at the red-clothed young woman in the air. The adult villagers were the same as well, and their gazes were completely attracted by the red-clothed young woman before them. They'd stayed in this remote little village all their lives and were self-sufficient, and they'd never gone outside. When had they ever seen such a beauty? "Tianwu, these children are calling you Big Sister Fairy." Duan Lingtian looked at the group of naive children before him and lightly smiled as he spoke to Feng Qianwu. The rosy color on Feng Qianwu's beautiful face deepened when she heard this. "Who are you people?" At this moment, a loud shout resonated from the back of the village. Accompanying this shout was an agile figure that was as agile as a cheetah. In just a blink of an eye, it swept into the village and stared at Duan Lingtian and Feng Qianwu covetously. The person that appeared in front of Duan Lingtian was a tall and sturdy young man who was about 20 years old. The young man had a pair of thick eyebrows. Although his eyes under his eyebrows were filled with dread when he looked at them, he still straightened his back and did not take a step back. At this moment, Duan Lingtian could not help but have a hint of admiration in his eyes. This young man seems a little familiar. Soon after, Duan Lingtian, who had carefully sized up the tall and sturdy young man for a while, suddenly realized that he seemed a little familiar, as though he'd seen him somewhere before. "This is Xiongquan's hometown. I've only been here when I sent Xiongquan back. This young man is about 20 years old now. He should have only been 12 or 13 years old back then." At this thought, Duan Lingtian's eyes lit up. He looked at the tall and sturdy young man and asked with some surprise, "You? Could it be that you're heir who?" As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, not only was the tall and sturdy young man stunned, but the young man was also stunned. Even the group of adult villagers in the village was stunned. This brother who came with fairy sister seems to know brother heir who. Brother heir who is so amazing. Even this brother who can fly knows him. Brother Heir, who is indeed the only person in our village who left the village with Uncle Xiong Quan to explore the outside world. The group of children in the village had exaggerated expressions on their faces. You know me? The tall and sturdy young man who was Heir Hu stared blankly at Duan Lingtan, his face full of confusion. What? Heir Hu, you've even forgotten me? Duan Lingtian smiled. I remember that when Xiong Quan and I came to the village that year, you were only 12 or 13 years old. At that time, you even invited me to your house for a meal. As soon as Duan Lingtian said this, Heir Hu's pupils couldn't help but constrict. When he was 12 or 13 years old, he invited this person before him to his house for a meal. Your brother Ling Tian? Finally, Heir Hu searched through the distant memories of his childhood and finally remembered Duan Ling Tian. His face couldn't help but reveal an excited and emotional expression. All these years, he had heard his uncle Xiong Quan mention the various deeds of this purple-clothed young man before him. The purple-clothed young man was already at the 8th level of the origin core stage when he was his current age. All this while, he had regarded Duan Ling Tian as his idol. Now that he saw his idol again, how could he not be excited? He's young Master Ling Tian? Meanwhile, many villagers couldn't help but recall the distinguished guest that came to their village all those years ago when they heard what Heir Hu said. Even the #1 expert in their village, Xiong Quan, had to respectfully address the guest as young master. It's really young Master Ling Tian. After so many years, young Master Ling Tian hasn't changed in the slightest. Yeah, young Master Ling Tian is still so young. All the villagers looked at Duan Ling Tian, and the fear in their eyes had vanished and was replaced with respect. Heir Hu, where's Xiong Quan? Duan Ling Tian sighed with emotion as he looked at the robust young man before him. In the blink of an eye, the child from all those years ago had already grown up, and he even possessed a cultivation at the 4th level of the origin core stage. Although his cultivation wasn't comparable to his age from all those years ago, but in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, he could be considered to possess extraordinary natural talent. Uncle Xiong Quan, Heir Hu was just about to speak when he was interrupted by a loud and clear voice. Who's there? You dare trespass into our Xiong village? The loud and clear voice was like a clap of thunder as it resonated from afar. The moment the voice left his mouth, a figure that seemed to have transformed into a gigantic sword shot into the village and appeared next to Heir Hu. At the same time, 200 ancient horned dragon silhouettes came to a halt in the sky above the person who had a layer of solidified sword energy flashing on his body. They wriggled down in an imposing manner. First level advanced sword concept? Before the person transformed into a gigantic sword and shot into the village, Duan Lingtian had already seen the 200 ancient horned dragon silhouettes that followed after him. His eyes narrowed uncontrollably. Now that the person had revealed himself, he couldn't help but exclaim in shock, Xiong Quan, when did you comprehend the first level advanced sword concept? The person was a tall and robust middle-aged man. His face was covered in stubble and he didn't care about his appearance. Was he not Xiong Quan who had always been by his side all those years ago? Young master. Chapter 10:19. As the sword energy surrounding Xiong Quan's body disappeared, the 200 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons above his head disappeared as well. His pair of eyes that were as big as copper gongs were filled with inexplicable excitement and tears of joy. After so many years, Xiong Quan completely lost his composure when he saw Duan Lingtian again. Ah, Xiong Quan. Long time no see. Duan Lingtian flew down and landed in front of Xiong Quan. He looked at Xiong Quan from top to bottom and smiled. You're still the same as before. You haven't changed at all. Although Duan Lingtian tried his best to remain calm, he could not help but feel excited. At this moment, he seemed to have completely forgotten that Xiong Quan had comprehended the first level advanced sword concept. Young master. Seeing Duan Lingtian was so close to him, Xiong Quan's body trembled even more intensely due to his excitement. He could no longer hold back the tears in his eyes as they flowed down. As the saying went, a man did not cry. Men don't cry easily, but that's only because they haven't been deeply hurt. When he was not happy. However, Xiong Quan was not sad. Instead, he was happy. He was so excited that tears of joy were flowing down his cheeks. Xiong Quan, sorry to keep you waiting. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and said, I told you that year. The next time I come to look for you, it'll be the time I repair your dantian. This was Duan Lingtian's promise to Xiong Quan back then. Now he was here to fulfill his promise. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Xiong Quan was stunned. He was completely stunned. Repair my dantian? Young master, why you're telling the truth? Xiong Quan's emotions that had calmed down were stirred up again. His stubbled cheeks trembled violently due to his excitement. Although he had never shown the sadness of being unable to cultivate due to his dantian being destroyed in front of others, he would always be in a daze in the middle of the night. He would be in a daze because of his destroyed dantian. As for the promise Duan Lingtian made to him back then, he did not take it to heart. He only thought Duan Lingtian was just comforting him. This was because he had never heard of anyone being able to repair their dantian after it was destroyed. But today Duan Lingtian, whom he had not seen for many years, had appeared before him again, and even said that he could repair his dantian. At this moment he had no choice but to believe the promise Duan Lingtian had made to him back then. What? You still don't believe me? Duan Lingtian smiled. No. Young master, I just feel that this is too inconceivable. Xiong Quan hurriedly shook his head and said, Big brother Lingtian, can you really help Uncle Xiong Quan repair his dantian? Hu, who was beside Xiong Quan, looked at Duan Lingtian excitedly. For a moment, the other villagers also looked at Duan Lingtian expectantly, as if they wanted to get a definite answer from Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian did not say anything. He knew that at this moment, no matter how much he said, it would be useless. He might as well let the facts prove everything. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian raised his hand and took out the immortal spirit herb from his storage ring. The last leaf of the immortal spirit herb that was shining with a green light appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Xiong Quan, eat this. After Duan Lingtian plucked the last leaf of the immortal spirit herb, the green light surrounding the immortal spirit herb completely disappeared and disappeared without a trace. However, the green light on the immortal spirit herb's leaf continued to shine. A grass that glows? What kind of grass is this? It's so magical. Immediately, the surrounding villagers of Xiong village were shocked. Even the children who had quietened down were stunned. When Xiong Quan saw the immortal spirit herb shining with a green light, he knew that this stalk of glowing grass was not simple. Now, when he heard that Duan Lingtian wanted him to eat the immortal spirit herb, his heart could not help but tremble. This was the herb that could help him repair his dantian? If it was a normal herb, even if Duan Lingtian wanted him to eat it, he would more or less have some doubts in his heart even if he did not say anything on the surface. However, the herb that was shining with a green light in front of him made him realize that it was not an ordinary herb. What kind of joke was this? A normal herb that could shine? Thank you, young master. Xiong Quan excitedly took the immortal spirit herb from Duan Lingtian's hand and stuffed it into his mouth without any hesitation, swallowing it in 2 to 3 mouthfuls. Xiong Quan swallowed the herb. Not only the villagers of Xiong village, even Feng Tianwu, who had landed and was standing beside Duan Lingtian, looked at Xiong Quan with a curious expression. Although she knew about the medicinal power of the immortal spirit herb from Duan Lingtian, she had never seen the power of the immortal spirit herb with her own eyes. Now, she finally had the chance to see the immortal spirit herb display its medicinal power with her own eyes. She was looking forward to it. After Xiong Quan ate the immortal spirit herb, the villagers of Xiong village held their breaths and their gazes fell on Xiong Quan. Uncle Xiong Quan. Who clenched his fists tightly and his body trembled slightly as he looked at Xiong Quan with eyes full of expectation. In the past he was the closest to Xiong Quan in Xiong village. His skills were all taught to him by Xiong Quan. Because of this, he knew how much his uncle Xiong Quan cared about his destroyed dantian. Because of this, he especially hoped that his uncle Xiong Quan's dantian could be repaired. Wow! Uncle Xiong Quan's stomach is glowing, a little boy exclaimed. At the same time, everyone saw that in Xiong Quan's dantian, there was now a dazzling green light that appeared through his robes. The green light became more and more intense. Half an hour later, the green light gradually became smaller and smaller until it was completely extinguished and disappeared. Uncle Xiong Quan who took a deep breath and looked at Xiong Quan with a worried expression. Feng Tianwu and the villagers of the Xiong family village were all staring at Xiong Quan. Their eyes were filled with urgency. They wanted to know the result. As for Duan Lingtian, he had a calm expression from beginning to end. Even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, his expression would not change. It was as if he was not worried that Xiong Quan's dantian could not be repaired. Under everyone's gaze, Xiong Quan was stunned for a moment. The moment he came back to his senses, a smile appeared on his stubbled face, and then he threw his head back and laughed heartily. His laughter was wanton, as if he wanted to completely disperse the sullenness of all these years. It's repaired. My dantian is repaired. Xiong Quan's laughter only stopped after a dozen breaths, but it seemed that he was still not happy enough. He roared to the sky to vent his excitement. Hot tears poured out of Xiong Quan's eyes uncontrollably. For a moment, the villagers of Xiong village, including Hu, laughed. They were all happy for Xiong Quan. Brother. Ling Tian, thank you. Hu thanked Duan Ling Tian in a trembling voice. He was so emotional that his voice trembled. Don't thank me. Speaking of which, I'm responsible for the destruction of Xiong Quan's dantian back then. Duan Ling Tian shook his head. Unlike the villagers of Xiong village who were excited, when the green light that rose from Xiong Quan's dantian disappeared, he extended his spiritual energy to check that Xiong Quan's dantian had been repaired. Because of this he was very calm. Moreover, he had seen the heaven-defying medicinal power of the immortal spirit herb. Power of who could regrow a broken leg after consuming the immortal spirit herb. That was much more difficult than repairing a dantian. Whether it was the royal grade resurrection pill or the quasi-royal grade resurrection pill, it could repair one's dantian. Whether it was the quasi-royal grade resurrection pill or the royal grade resurrection pill, it could not repair one's broken leg. Compared to regrowing a broken leg, repairing a dantian was child's play. It's really repaired? Although Feng Qianwu did not doubt Duan Lingtian's words, she was still shocked when she saw the faint origin energy surrounding Xiong Quan's body. The origin energy surrounding Xiong Quan's body was very weak. It was so weak that it could be ignored. However, such weak origin energy still required a complete dantian to extend from one's body. Thank you, young master. Before everyone, including Duan Ling Tian, could react, Xiong Quan had already knelt down in front of Duan Ling Tian with a thud and kowtowed to express his gratitude. Xiong Quan, what are you doing? Upon seeing this, Duan Ling Tian's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly raised his hand and the gentle origin energy turned into an invisible force that extended and lifted Xiong Quan up. When Xiong Quan saw the anger on Duan Ling Tian's face, he realized that Duan Ling Tian was angry because of his actions earlier. He was at a loss for what to do. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind. Young master, follow me. Xiong Quan called out to Duan Ling Tian and took the lead to fly out of the village. As soon as Xiong Quan's voice entered Duan Ling Tian's ears, Duan Ling Tian noticed that Xiong Quan had turned around and was walking out of the village. His anger instantly disappeared, and he did not know whether to laugh or cry. However, he still followed him. He wanted to see where Xiong Quan was leading him to. Naturally, Feng Qianwu followed closely behind. After Xiong Quan left the village, the sword energy on his body skyrocketed, causing him to look as though he had transformed into a gigantic sword as he flew into the distance. Since Xiong Quan's current origin energy could not allow him to fly, the gigantic sword that he transformed into brushed against the ground as he flew. However, Duan Lingtian's eyes were still filled with shock. Xiong Quan, how did you comprehend the first-level advanced sword concept? Duan Lingtian could not help but ask curiously when he saw the 200 silhouettes of ancient horned dragons above Xiong Quan's head. Even Feng Qianwu's beautiful face was filled with curiosity. She had heard Duan Lingtian mention some things about Xiong Quan before. For this reason, she knew that when Xiong Quan returned to the Xiong village that year, he had only comprehended sword force. He did not even comprehend the elementary sword concept. However, it had not even been 10 years. However, Xiong Quan had comprehended sword force to the first-level advanced sword concept. In her opinion, it was simply unbelievable. Young master, you'll understand everything when you follow me to that place. Xiong Quan, who was leading the way in front, told Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian nodded and did not say anything as he followed Xiong Quan closely. He wanted to see where Xiong Quan was leading him to. That place allowed Xiong Quan to comprehend the void transformation concept in just a few years. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.